Chapter 597. Lin Che looked at the man. At this moment, the bodyguard had already settled the matter outside. When he came in, he stood behind Lin Che. The man looked at Lin Che and could only beg for mercy. "I'm really sorry. I was wrong, okay? I really shouldn't have run away. But I really don't know where he went." Lin Che said, "But you must have a way to contact him, or make him come to you on his own. In any case, you better find him for me now. Otherwise, when you ran away just now, you really pissed me off." The man looked at her awkwardly. After a while, he sighed and said, Okay, I'll think of a way. It's probably impossible to find him, but I should be able to contact him in the game." Hearing this, Lin Che finally heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that he could contact him. He could at least try. However, at this moment, Whirlwind was at home listening to the situation outside. The television was on, but there was no news of missing people. She thought that there was a huge uproar outside, but everyone acted as if nothing had happened. No one mentioned it. She couldn't help but feel anxious. After waiting for a long time, she finally saw her father's call. She quickly picked it up. "Dad, what's going on? Why is there no movement outside at all?" Father Immerse said, "Don't worry. I've already ordered someone to do it. But there's a problem now. Eric went to Glass Palace, but no one dares to disturb him and affect his visit. So he still doesn't know that his daughter is missing." "He still doesn't know? Then what should we do? Let's think of a way to let Eric know about it now." "Just wait." "Dad, are you going to send someone to Glass Palace to tell Eric? Do you know anyone in Glass Palace?" "That was Glass Palace. It wasn't a random place." Father Immerse said, "Don't worry, I have a way. I bribed the people inside. They're not important people, but it's still possible to do something." Hearing this, Whirlwind felt a little more at ease. While Lin Che was still looking for people outside, Yu Minmin suddenly called. Yu Minmin said, "Gu Jingza called me. He wants me to go back to attend the banquet." Lin Che asked curiously, "Why?" Yu Minmin said, "Eric will be attending the banquet tonight. I'll be there to pay attention. Don't let anyone inform Eric of this news first, in case it gets exaggerated and causes an even bigger storm." "All right," Lin Che thought. Gu Jingza always thought about things from all angles. Yu Minmin returned to Glass Palace to attend the banquet. She first asked the servants to help her dress up in her room, but then she received a call from Feng Xiaoqing. On the phone, Feng Xiaoqing asked, "I'm already at the entrance of the banquet. Are you coming tonight?" Yu Minmin said, "Yes, I will be there, but I haven't gone yet." Feng Xiaoqing smiled and said, "All right, I'll see you later." Yu Minmin packed up and walked out. When she saw Linda, she asked, "Where's Mr. President?" Linda said, "Madam, Mr. President is with Mr. Eric. The two of them are chatting." Yu Minmin asked, "Is there anyone else there?" "No, only Mr. President's personal guards are here." Yu Minmin thought that was good. Linda asked, "Is Madam going over?" "Oh, it's okay. I'll just watch from the outside." She thought that she would just watch from the outside. If there were any strange or suspicious people, she would be able to stop them. Yu Minmin went inside, just like that. State banquets were different from ordinary business banquets. There would be small round tables outside like a cafe. Familiar people would sit around there, chatting and eating. There would also be some important people chatting inside. There would be reporters following them at all times to record bits and pieces of the state banquet. However, these reports would be approved by Linda before they could be published. Some reports that were not good for country C and the president's image would be deleted. After Yu Minmin went out, she saw that, just as the servants had said, everyone was chatting. They were talking about the political system and national affairs. She didn't understand what they were talking about, so she didn't bother to listen. She thought that she would leave after one look, but she suddenly heard someone call her. "Minmin." Yu Minmin turned around and saw Feng Xiaoqing sitting at one of the seats. He stood up and called out to Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin nodded and walked over to greet him. "You're here." Sitting with him were a few familiar high-ranking officials. Feng Xiaoqing smiled and was about to speak when he saw the high-ranking officials suddenly stand up and bow to Yu Minmin. "Hello, madam." Yu Minmin was stunned for a moment. She smiled and nodded. She thought about the etiquette she had learned in the past. Although it was a little uncomfortable to use it now, she could still remember it. She smiled and wore a long gray dress. She looked very appropriate and graceful. Perhaps it was because of the atmosphere here, but Feng Xiaoqing felt that she had the demeanor of a big shot when he looked at her. Yu Minmin smiled and said, "Hello, everyone. You've worked hard. You don't have to be so polite. It's just a family banquet today, so please feel free." Everyone smiled and sat down. Feng Xiaoqing stared at Yu Minmin for a long time before he reacted. He blinked and said, "Minmin, you look very beautiful today." Yu Minmin smiled and nodded. "Thank you for the compliment." The people at the table next to them couldn't help but ask, "Why? Do you two know each other?" Yu Minmin smiled and said, "Yes, we're classmates." It was only then that everyone looked at Feng Xiaoqing with a look of respect in their eyes. The way they looked at him seemed a little different. "So you're one of Madam's family." "Hello, hello." A few high-ranking officials came to shake hands with Feng Xiaoqing. Feng Xiaoqing had just come to curry favor with them, but he didn't expect that they would suddenly take the initiative and be so friendly because of Yu Minmin. Instead, it made him feel a little uncomfortable. He actually had a feeling that he was proud of Yu Minmin. Because of Yu Minmin, he felt that he had suddenly become proud of Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin smiled and said, "I still have something to do. Xiaoqing, take a seat first. Have fun. Eric has been inside today, so it might not be good for you to see him. They might come out later, so you should wait." Feng Xiaoqing hurriedly said, "It's okay. Don't worry because of me. It's fate that we can meet. If I don't, I can only blame my bad luck." Yu Minmin nodded and went in first. She didn't know how long she had been at the entrance, but she didn't see anyone suspicious. She wanted to relax, so she sat down and stretched her neck. Then she saw someone walking in with a tray. She called out to him, "What do you do?" That person turned around and saw Yu Minmin walking towards him. He was startled, and his face looked a little sheepish. Yu Minmin looked at him suspiciously. After sizing him up, she said, "I'm asking you a question." Oh, Mr. President needs some hot tea." Yu Minmin narrowed her eyes. "Oh, give it to me. I'll bring it." "Oh, this. Why? Can't I just give it to me?" No. How can Madam do these things?" "It's okay. It's only right for a wife to bring tea to her husband. Give it to me." He had no choice but to give it to Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin glanced at him, turned around, and walked away. He could only walk out gloomily and call someone to tell them about the situation. "I really can't go in. I finally found a chance to go in and deliver the tea, but I was picked up by Mrs. President. Mrs. President came to pick me up personally. What can I do?" "No, I don't dare." Chapter 598. Yu Minmin went in with the things. When Gu Jingming saw that it was Yu Minmin who came in, he paused and said, "You?" Yu Minmin squinted her eyes and smiled. "Have some tea." Eric was sitting at the side, his head tilted. The two of them seemed to be very casual. There were two reporters at the side who were filming at any time. Gu Jingming looked at the reporters and took Yu Minmin's hand to sit down. He introduced her to Eric. "This is my wife." Eric said in surprise, "Oh, I know. I saw your wedding ceremony." Hello. It's my honor to be able to meet the First Lady. You're so beautiful." Eric said. It was Yu Minmin's first time seeing Eric. She felt that it was very magical to see him. She shook his hand, not to mention how surprised she was. After a simple handshake, she said hello. Because her English was not very good, Gu Jingming translated. "My wife doesn't speak English very well, but she knows Mr. Eric a long time ago." He looked up and said to Yu Minmin, "If there's nothing else, let's sit down for a while." Yu Minmin glanced at the reporters at the side and sat down. Gu Jingming held her hand all the way and leaned against the wall. Although he was lazy, he didn't feel that it was inappropriate. His aura of a king didn't diminish just because he relaxed for a moment. He chatted with Eric in fluent English, making people feel as if any language was his mother tongue. He did not seem nervous at all. It was just that holding Yu Minmin's hand made her feel a little nervous, but nothing else. However, Yu Minmin was still thinking about what Lin Che had found outside and was a little worried. She sat there and helped to pass water. If she saw someone coming in, she would go over to get water and food. If she saw something missing, she would take the initiative to do it. This prevented anyone from getting close to Eric. Hence, for a long time, no one could get close. Finally, Gu Jingming said to Eric, "Why don't we go out and take a look?" Eric said, Of course, I've never seen Glass Palace before. I've always heard that it has the best security and anti-explosion measures in the world. Gu Jingming raised his eyebrows. Yes, you know that everyone is afraid of me dying. The reporter laughed, and so did Eric. Yu Minmin looked at Gu Jingming. His words, his actions, his facial expressions, and every minute detail of him were filled with admiration. No wonder he became the most popular president, because he really did it perfectly. It was perfect to the point of being meticulous. Outside, when the three of them came out, the senior officials stood up together. Some of the other invited guests also stood up. Everyone looked at the three of them respectfully. Yu Minmin has always been low-key and rarely appears with the president. This time, when everyone saw that his wife was also there, they couldn't help but be more enthusiastic. Someone laughed and said, "Mr. President and his wife standing together. It really makes people feel very happy." Gu Jingming said with a smile, "Thank you for coming to Luli Palace today. Mr. Eric's visit to Country C is just a low-key one, but we still welcome Mr. Eric very much. I hope Mr. Eric can have a good time in Country C and experience the local customs. Since Mr. Eric's wife is from Country C, she should know a lot about it." Gu Jingming said with a smile, "Yes, in Country C's words, I'm the son-in-law of Country C, yes. So from now on, coming to Country C will be like going home. Mr. Eric will always be welcome here." While everyone was enjoying themselves, someone beside them said, "Now that the president's wife is a commoner, she doesn't seem to be a bad match. Yes, she has learned a lot of etiquette. She should be very magnanimous and proper. She looks very much like the mother of the country." Feng Xiaoqing listened at the back and raised his head. He could only see Yu Minmin following Gu Jingming from afar. She stood there quietly like a magnolia. However, he didn't know if it was because her makeup was better today, but she looked different from usual. Feng Xiaoqing couldn't help but feel that she was high up in the sky and far away from him. She looked at her uncomfortably and wanted to talk to Eric, but Eric obviously didn't want to come here to meet her alone. In the end, Eric walked into Glass Palace with Gu Jingming and Yu Minmin. The high-ranking officials sat down and talked about their own matters. Feng Xiaoqing looked inside. It was his first time coming to Glass Palace. He didn't expect that it would look so small on television, but it looked so big here. They were only in the front hall and hadn't really entered the depths of Glass Palace. He really didn't know how big it was inside. Outside, Lin Che and his men were watching in front of the computer. That man was playing a game. In the game, he operated it and said quickly, "Look, this is him. He's online." Lin Che narrowed his eyes and quickly called Yu Minmin. When Yu Minmin answered the phone, Gu Jingming was already bringing Eric to visit Glass Palace. She said, "Can you lock the IP address? I'm about to find him. He's playing a game." "Okay, I'll get someone to check it right away," Yu Minmin said. After Lin Che told Yu Minmin, he said to the man, "Talk to him or ask him to do something with you. Anyway, hold him back and don't let him move." The man looked up. She actually asked someone to check the IP address. Didn't that mean that she was very familiar with the police? He didn't dare to move and could only do as he was told. Yu Minmin used her authority in Glass Palace to ask Linda to help her find him. Soon Lin Che was given the result. She sent a text to Lin Che. Lin Che saw that the text said, "Gold Coast Internet Cafe, Fur Road." Lin Che said directly, "Let's go find him." She went down with her bodyguards and called Gu Jingza. Yu Minmin said that she found an IP address. They might be in Gold Coast Internet Cafe, on Fur Road. Gu Jingza said, "Okay, I'll go over now." "No, I'll go over first. I'll bring someone with me. You can go in if he's really there. Otherwise, what if he runs away or tries to hurt Yunsher?" "Okay, I'll be there soon." "Okay, I'll be there soon too." Lin Che put down the phone and quickly drove to Fur Road. There were many people in the internet cafe. It was well decorated, and there were many private rooms. After Lin Che entered, she looked around. There was no one on the first floor, so she went upstairs. However, when she reached the stairs, she saw a fair-skinned boy walking down from above. Chapter 599. When he saw Lin Che, he was stunned. Lin Che saw him immediately and said, "Ah, I've seen you before. You're indeed an actor in the crew." He was probably an extra and often appeared in various film crews. Although Lin Che couldn't remember his name, he immediately realized that it was him when he saw him. When he saw Lin Che, he turned and ran, throwing the 2 bottles of mineral water in his hands to the ground. Lin Che quickly chased after him. "Come back here. I won't hurt you. Just tell me where Yunshi is. As long as she's safe, I won't do anything to you." However, the man continued to run inside without looking back. Before Lin Che could react, the bodyguard beside him also jumped out and chased after the fair-skinned man. Lin Che shouted, "Be careful, don't hurt Yunshi." When he shouted, the people beside him noticed her. Someone said in surprise, "This person's voice and appearance, they all look like Lin Che. It can't be. Why would a superstar come to an internet cafe? How would I know? Anyway, it seems to be her." Lin Che couldn't care less about anything else and just rushed out. At this moment, she saw that the man had really pulled Lu Yunshi out of the room. He grabbed her and ran towards the back. Then, the bodyguard ran out after him. Lin Che shouted, "Yunshi!" Lu Yunshi seemed to have heard the sound, but before she could react, she had already been pulled away, and she couldn't see her figure anymore. Lin Che shouted and quickly chased after him. Lu Yunshi was being pulled by the man. She looked up and asked, "Where should I run?" The man said, "There's a floor-to-ceiling window over there. You can open it completely and jump out." "Ah, this is the 2nd floor. Can I jump?" "Why not? I won't die. Don't worry." What? If you don't dare, then go back with them." I don't want to go back," Lin Che shouted. "Yunshi, what are you doing?" Just as she ran over, she saw the man standing by the floor-to-ceiling window and pulling Lu Yunshi to jump down. Lin Che was shocked and immediately shouted, "Yunshi, don't jump. It's too dangerous." Lu Yunshi turned around and was confused for a moment. However, the boy then said, "Jump or go back, it's up to you." Lu Yunshi hesitated for a moment. However, in the next moment, she still stood up and made a jumping pose. Lin Che was scared out of his wits. Although it was the 2nd floor, it was still a few meters high. He wouldn't die if he jumped down, but he would be injured. Lin Che shouted loudly, "No!" She ran straight over. The boy jumped down first. Lu Yunshi didn't dare to, but with that pull, she still fell down. Lin Che didn't know where he got the strength from, but he quickly ran over and grabbed Lu Yunshi. She pulled Lu Yunshi inside. However, she tilted to one side and fell straight to the ground. "Ah, Treasure Che!" Lu Yunshi screamed. Lu Yunshi was so scared that her face turned pale and she immediately covered her mouth. As for Lin Che, with a bang, he directly fell to the ground. When Gu Jingzi arrived, he saw Lu Yunshi running out of the room. Gu Jingzi was stunned. His face instantly darkened, and he strode over. "Where's Lin Che?" Lu Yunshi's face was full of tears. Treasure Che fell down. "He's behind us, go quickly." Gu Jingzi pushed Lu Yunshi away and hurriedly ran to the back. When he reached the back, Lin Che was lying on the ground, holding his arm. He fell there and grimaced in pain. "Lin Che!" Gu Jingzi took a step forward and picked up Lin Che. Hand, don't touch hand, it hurts." She cried and pointed at her crooked hand. Gu Jingzi looked at her carefully, and his face darkened even more. "What happened? It's all my fault." At this moment, Lu Yunshi, who followed from behind, cried and said, "I'm sorry, Treasure Che. It's all my fault." "What happened to you? Sob, sob, sob. Did you fall?" Lin Che looked at Lu Yunshi and his face softened. He hurriedly said, "All right, I'm fine. Don't cry. Yunshi, don't jump down next time. You see, you'll really fall if you jump down, right?" When Lu Yunshi heard this, she burst into tears. "I won't be willful anymore, really." Gu Jingzi frowned and looked at Lin Che, who was grimacing in pain a moment ago, but was now smiling. He shook his head and hurriedly carried her. "Let's go. I'll take you to the hospital." He turned around and told the person beside him, "Go to Glass Palace and inform Eric that something happened to his daughter, Annie. Tell him to come to the hospital directly after." Lin Che couldn't help but say, "There's no problem now, right?" "Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Let's go." In the hospital, after the doctor examined her, he told Gu Jingzi, "Madam's forearm is fractured. It's a slight fracture. You can see a crack in the bone here. So it was a fracture. No wonder it hurt so much. Fortunately, it was only a slight one. She didn't want to see her bone really broken. Gujiza picked up the x-ray scan and looked at it. The crack was not small either. Do you need a cast? It had better be, the doctor said. Gujiza looked at Lin Che. Lin Che said, I didn't jump down on purpose. Moreover, it's not that high. How could it be a fracture if it wasn't high? Gujiza frowned. He wanted to scold her in his heart, but he couldn't bear to. Forget it. She was already in enough pain. It was better not to scold her. He only felt pain for her, so his heart was stuffy. It was as if her pain was digging his heart out. Don't do this next time. Forget it. Anyway, you're like this. You're so muddle-headed. Gu Jingze also knew that she had foolishly fallen down because of Lu Yunshi. This girl looked carefree on the surface, but she was very meticulous on the inside. Lin Che said, all right, don't blame Yunshi. She's probably in her rebellious phase, which is why she's so willful. Although other people are very envious of her and think that she's very lucky to be Eric's daughter, to her, what she wants is something else. For example, a moment of freedom, or something new. This is also a child's nature. I think she was scared just now. She's a kind girl. Seeing me hurt, she must have blamed herself. Gu Jingze tapped her head and said, You. Lin Che tugged at his clothes. It's true. Forget it. I'm not that scary. If you can think of it, how can I not think of it? He turned around and gave the person beside him a look, asking him to open the door. When Lu Yunshi saw the door open, she quickly ran over. She cried until her eyes were swollen and her little face was red. Looking at Lin Che, she cried even more. Baby Che, how are you? You scared me to death just now. I saw you fall down. Boo-hoo, it's all my fault. I'm sorry. I ran out because I wanted to go with him. I won't dare to do it again. Chapter 600. Lin Che looked at Lu Yunshi, sighed, and waved for her to come over. Lu Yunshi sobbed as she looked at Lin Che. I'm really sorry, Lin Che said. Next time, remember to tell us when you go out to play, right? Lu Yunshi heard this and nodded vigorously. She wiped her tears and said, Because Dad never lets me go out by myself. And there are always people following me. I've always wanted to go out and play by myself. Today, I saw AI me call me outside and said that he wanted to play games with me. I know he's not a good child, but I still want to go out with him. Lin Che asked curiously, AI me? Lu Yunshi nodded and said, AI me is the name I gave him. I think it's a nice name. Lin Che shook his head speechlessly. Because you're too young, your father doesn't allow you to go out alone. But if you want to go out, you can discuss it with your father. Go to a safe place and tell him your whereabouts at any time. I think your father will let you go out. I understand. I won't do it again. Baby Che, you must be in a lot of pain. She looked at Lin Che's arm and felt really scared and sad. When she saw him jump, Lu Yunshi felt like she was about to suffocate. She had lived in an ivory tower since she was young, so of course she had never experienced something like this. Lin Che said, Of course it hurts. It's really high up there. It looks fine, but jumping down will definitely hurt you. Look, didn't I get hurt? So, don't do this again next time. Do you hear me? Lu Yunshi immediately nodded her head vigorously. Lin Che then smiled in satisfaction and said to her, Okay, then it's fine. Luckily, it's only a little pain. I don't blame you. I accidentally fell down. Just then, they heard Eric's voice coming from outside. When he came in and saw this scene, his expression froze. Staring at Lu Yunshi, he frowned and said, Annie, you. Lu Yunshi hurriedly ran into her father's arms. Dad, I won't dare to do it again. Really, I won't do it again. I won't sneak out again. It's really my fault that Baby Che got hurt this time. I'll definitely go into confinement when I get back. I won't ask for pocket money. Don't be angry, okay, Dad? Eric's expression gradually relaxed as he looked at his daughter helplessly. He pulled his daughter over and looked at Lin Che. Suddenly, he bowed to Lin Che and said solemnly, I'm sorry that you got hurt because of Annie. Someone told me about what happened just now. Thank you for risking your life to save Annie. Annie doesn't know how to behave and doesn't know how serious the situation is, but I know that she's a kind child. I hope you can forgive her. Gu Jingze quietly explained in Lin Che's ear. Lin Che hurriedly said, I know. It's okay. It's my fault that she ran away. I didn't tell Mr. Eric in advance. I hope Mr. Eric won't be angry, because I was worried that you would be too angry and that you would blame me. I was also worried that if the matter got out of hand, Yunsher would be hurt even more. However, we were indeed slowly looking for her. Gu Jingze also did a carpet search. We only informed you when we were sure that she was found. Eric said, I understand. Why would I blame you? Annie was always pestering you. You only brought her along because you liked her and let her cause trouble. She was rebellious and wanted to go out to play, so she jumped out of the window. This is indeed very bad and hard to prevent. Moreover, I can feel your sincerity. Lin Che said, I'm just suspecting that someone is trying to lure her away on purpose. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lured her away from the camera. Although Yunsher is very rebellious, this incident wouldn't have happened without this person's lure. Gu Jingze said, Yes, Mr. Eric. My first thought was the same. Someone probably lured her away on purpose, thinking that I was the one who caused the war between us. I was worried that someone would interfere, so I didn't tell you about this in advance. It was also because you were in Glass Palace and I couldn't contact you that this matter was delayed. Eric said, If that's really the case, we have to take a good look. However, I can feel your kindness. Lin Che's kindness and courage can really be used as a role model for Annie. Lin Che, thank you. This matter has also taught Annie a lesson. I think she won't be so mischievous in the future. Lu Yunsher had already shyly leaned into her father's embrace and shrunk back. That doting look made Lin Che feel very envious. Yunsher had really been protected too well by others. That was why she was so innocent, reckless, and mischievous. In the past, she would never have dared to do such a thing because she had never had a backer. However, now she felt that she had become much bolder. She even dared to bring her bodyguards to look for someone. Because she turned to look at Gu Jingze. She thought to herself that she had vaguely treated Gu Jingze as her backer. Looking at him, she felt very safe no matter what happened. Therefore, Yunsher was lucky. She was also lucky. However, the person who lured Lu Yunsher, Gu Jingze, quickly brought Eric over and pulled the boy over. The boy was a bright and handsome big boy. It was obvious that he was young. He looked at Lu Yunsher, Lin Che, Eric, and Gu Jingze. He didn't dare to raise his head again. How could he have imagined that he would meet so many big shots today? It was all because he had taken their money and tricked this little girl into going out to play. He said, I really didn't know she was Eric's daughter. Gu Jingze said, Tell me, who told you to do this? He said, I was just bored. I thought she was pretty. So, are you still not going to tell me the truth? He raised his head. Gu Jingze was staring at him, and he was already getting goosebumps. Gu Jingze walked forward step by step. His intense gaze was so oppressive that it almost made one's mind collapse. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and quickly said, I don't know who it is. Someone told me about this in the game. He gave me money and asked me to take this girl away. He said not to hurt her. He just wanted to let her go out to play for a few days and hide her well, so that no one would find her. Gu Jingze said, Tell my people about your information, and then you, with his bank account and game information, he should be able to find out something. But how should he deal with this boy? Just as he was about to speak, Lu Yunsher suddenly pleaded from behind, Please don't hurt him. Chapter 601. Eric looked down at Lu Yunsher. In front of him, the boy also looked at her in a daze. Lu Yunsher stood up and said, I know that I'm in the wrong, and he's in the wrong too, but he didn't force me to go out. I wanted to go out myself. Moreover, he treats me very well, really well. He took good care of me outside and didn't bully me. I've always been bullied by me. I think he's actually a good person, but he made a mistake this time. You can forgive me if I do something wrong, but if he does something wrong, you must give him a chance, okay? Eric could only lower his head when he heard her say this. Her last sentence was too irrefutable. They would forgive her if she did something wrong, not only because she was Eric's daughter, but also because she didn't think that it wasn't something that deserved to be forgiven. Eric patted her head. All right, I know you're very kind. Okay, can I really? Eric looked at Gu Jingze in front of him and nodded silently. Gu Jingze slowly turned his gaze away. Okay, I won't pursue this matter. The boy only looked at Lu Yunshi as if he had something to say, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Eric left with Lu Yunshi first. He said, "Let's go. Although we've forgiven you for the whole day, you said that you have to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. Let's go. I'll take you back." Lu Yunshi looked at the boy reluctantly. In the end, she gritted her teeth and turned to leave. Seeing Eric leave with Lu Yunshi, Lin Che got off the bed and looked at the boy. "What's your name?" "My name is Shui Yang." He looked at Lin Che and her arm. "I'm sorry that you broke your arm. I'm not targeting anyone. At that time, I thought that I could jump over and I would catch her, but I didn't expect that the one who fell was Sister Che." Lin Che said, "Forget it. Since Yunshi has already pleaded for mercy on this matter, and we've also said that we'll forgive you, then we'll definitely forgive you." Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything. Lin Che could only pull his hand again. Gu Jingze, for Yunshi's sake, Gu Jingze still didn't move. Lin Che could only continue to tug at him. "Okay, Gu Jingze, hubby." Calling him hubby was indeed more useful than anything else. Gu Jingze softened and lowered his head to look at Lin Che. Looking at her appearance, his heart was originally unwilling. He had always been a person who would seek revenge for the slightest grievance, but at this moment, he suddenly wanted to comply with her wishes. Seriously, he looked at Lin Che. He couldn't take it anymore. He really didn't know what to do with her. Lin Che was still looking at him with a fawning expression. Gu Jingze could only say, "All right, just this once." Lin Che was overjoyed. "Really? Gu Jingze, you're the best." Gu Jingze thought, "If I agree, I won't call him my husband anymore." This Lin Che was really, Gu Jingze said, "Are you that good at burning bridges after crossing them?" Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze and said speechlessly, "How am I burning bridges after crossing them?" Remembering that there was someone else beside them, she quickly got off him and hugged his high neck with one hand. It was really tiring. Gu Jingze didn't say anything. Seeing Lin Che's happy smile, which was much better than the worried look on Lu Yunshi's face when she ran out, Gu Jingze's heart slowly calmed down. For a moment, he actually felt that the fact that she could smile was more important than anything else. He couldn't understand what this feeling was. How could it be so domineering and occupy his heart just like that? But when she smiled, it was really like the sun directly bathing his heart. On the other side, Shui Yang had never thought that Lin Che was already married. Even more so, he didn't expect that her husband was the famous Gu Jingze. No wonder she had risen so quickly, and no wonder she had been through so many misfortunes. Perhaps this was the pros and cons of having such a husband. Being a normal person might be much simpler than being a person who was always high up. Because it was lonely at the top, that was for sure. However, looking at the famous Gu Jingze indulging Lin Che, he felt that everything was very novel, as if he was a little different from the rumors. Lin Che turned around and looked at Shui Yang. "I know that you are very good to Yunshi. I can also see that you really don't want to do anything bad. As long as you are willing to cooperate with us and find out who is doing the bad things, this matter will be settled." Shui Yang said, "That's for sure. I said that I will cooperate, but my knowledge is also limited. I have never met the person, nor have I spoken through the phone. It's all done through the internet." Lin Che said, "It's okay. I will do my best." Shui Yang nodded. "I will." Then, Lin Che said, "You have probably seen Yunshi's identity." Shui Yang was slightly stunned. He felt that Yunshi was very good. Although they had only interacted for a short time, she was only 12 years old, and he didn't have much feelings for her. He had a good impression of her, but it wasn't that kind of good impression. He just wanted to continue being friends with her. He was actually only 18 years old, and he wasn't much older than her. However, now that he thought about it, was it impossible for them to be friends? Because he really didn't think that she would actually be Eric's daughter. From the moment she was born, she was a little princess, while he was just an ordinary person who couldn't be any more ordinary. Even if he wanted to be an actor or a celebrity, he didn't have a chance. Lin Che said, "You can leave first." He nodded, sighed, and turned to leave. Gu Jingze brought Lin Che back home at night. He carried Lin Che all the way back. At home, Mo Huiling had already hidden in her room. Because she was angry, Her morning sickness became worse. However, this matter had failed, and she couldn't do anything about it. In order to stir up trouble on both sides, she specially sent a handsome boy to seduce that girl. The seduction was successful, and they knew that they would find her quickly. However, their original intention was to tell Eric and let both sides fight, but unexpectedly, after Eric found out, he didn't blame Lin Che. She heard that Lin Che broke his arm because he saved Eric's daughter. She couldn't help but admire Lin Che. This Lin Che was a little too ruthless to himself. This trick of hurting himself was really good. That night, Lin Che went to bed very early. After a day of tension, he relaxed, so he fell asleep very easily. However, Gu Jingzi took care of things for a long time. As he looked at Lin Che, who was sleeping soundly, he read a book. He gently touched her ear and lowered his head. He couldn't help but want to smile. It was as if seeing her made him feel happy. He actually had this kind of feeling. Chapter 602. Lin Che woke up early in the morning. Although his wrist was broken, he still called Yu Minmin early in the morning. He told her that there was a guy called Shui Yang who was only 18 years old. She thought he was a good person. Yu Minmin said, "You mean the boy who took Yunshi away?" "Yeah," Lin Che said. "He's handsome and very sunny. He looks like a little fresh meat. I think he's worth grooming. Aren't we going to sign a few newcomers to groom? I think he's quite suitable." "All right, I think he should be very handsome to be able to kidnap Eric's daughter. He looks very good. I'll call him for an audition." "Okay, then you do as you see fit." "All right, rest well. Although it's a slight fracture, you still have to rest for a while. Otherwise, there will be repercussions." "Okay, don't worry." Lin Che actually didn't want to care about anything else. He was going to rest at home today. However, in the morning, Eric suddenly announced his itinerary, saying that he was going to visit a historical site in Country C. This time, he chose the Liu family to accompany him and appeared in public with his daughter. This was all normal, and no one thought much of it. However, Eric suddenly said in a live interview, "Our company has just cooperated with another company for a perfume advertisement. X3 hopes to cooperate with Lin Che. I like her to be our spokesperson." Everyone was stunned. Was it that celebrity Lin Che? She was going to endorse such an international brand of perfume? It couldn't be. These perfume advertisements had always liked to invite big Hollywood stars or European supermodels. When had they ever had an Asian face? Not a single one. However, Lin Che was suddenly lifted up. Everyone hurriedly asked Eric, "Why is it Lin Che? Did Mr. Eric know Lin Che before?" Eric smiled. "No, but my daughter is Lin Che's biggest fan, so I was forced to watch some Lin Che dramas. Then I realized that she is really beautiful, and her personality is very suitable for X3's perfume. Just like this perfume, she has an independent beauty. The advertising slogan for this perfume will be very tempting, and I think it's very suitable for Lin Che. Of course, I haven't gotten Lin Che's consent on this matter, but I sincerely hope that she can agree." Everyone exploded. They felt that Lin Che was too lucky to be liked by Eric's daughter. Was he going to break out of Asia and head towards Hollywood to endorse such a perfume? This perfume advertisement will not only be aired in China, but also overseas, right? However, Lin Che didn't know about this yet. On the other hand, Yu Minmin hurriedly gave her a call and told her about it. Only then did Lin Che feel as if he had been shaken. Yu Minmin said, "This is great. You've been keeping a low profile for a few days, and now you're in the headlines again." Lin Che said, "Mr. Eric, what do you mean? I only broke my arm. It can be considered a blessing in disguise. He probably really wants to thank you. In any case, no matter who it was that wanted to harm you and sow discord, she has completely failed." Yes, it was a complete failure because he did not provoke anything at all. Instead, it made Eric like Lin Che even more. Outside, Mo Huiling was so angry that she almost smashed the phone again. But she thought to herself bitterly, this Lin Che, she is really too outrageous. No wonder she was able to capture Gu Jing's heart so quickly. It was all because of her scheming. Lin Che was still resting in his room. Knowing that Mo Huiling was outside, he was too lazy to go out of his bedroom. Just then, the door was pushed open and Gu Jingzi came in. She looked at Gu Jingzi strangely. "Why are you here?" Gu Jingza said, "It's nothing. I'm here to accompany you." Was Gu Jingza saying that he wasn't going to work and would stay at home to accompany her to recuperate? Lin Che quickly said, "It's okay. I'll just watch TV at home and rest. You should continue with your work." Gu Jingza looked at her for a while, but still lifted the blanket and lay down beside her. "I'm fine with wherever I work. You can watch TV." Lin Che didn't dare to watch TV anymore. He was worried that he would disturb him. "I'll bring the earphones and listen to it," she said. Gu Jingza said, "It's okay. Watch yourself. This little noise won't disturb me." Lin Che rubbed against him and said, "I don't think so." Gu Jingza said, "As long as you don't move, you won't disturb me." Lin Che was about to continue rubbing against him, but he stopped when he heard what he said. He hugged her and said softly, "You're the only one who can disturb me." Lin Che blushed. She leaned against him and didn't dare to move. All right, she wouldn't do anything else. She would just watch TV. In the TV series, the male and female leads were having a wedding. Because she had been watching this TV series for a long time, Lin Che was very touched when she finally saw this scene. But she didn't know that Gu Jingza was watching this scene from the side. Gu Jingza suddenly put down the tablet and looked at Lin Che. Lin Che looked up. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. What do you want to eat later?" "I'll get someone to make it." "Anything. I just want to eat some noodles." "Okay." Gu Jingza went out. Mo Huiling stood up immediately and looked at Gu Jingza with a pleading look. Gu Jingza didn't even look at her and went to talk to the helpers. Mo Huiling was rebuffed. Although it wasn't the first time, she still felt embarrassed in front of the helpers. She vaguely thought that she had to think of another way to separate Gu Jingza and Lin Che. However, the next day, Gu Jingza suddenly came to the bedroom and looked at Lin Che. "How's your hand?" Lin Che moved it and said, "The painkillers are very effective. It doesn't hurt as much anymore." Gu Jingza said, "Let's go out for a few days while we're resting." "Ah, where are we going?" "I'm taking you out to relax." "Oh, are we going out to play?" "Sort of." What did he mean by sort of? But Lin Che didn't ask further. He got up and saw the helpers come in to pack up. He wanted to see if there was anything he needed to bring. There were only some daily necessities. The two got into the car and went straight to the airport. When they arrived at the airport, Lin Che asked, "Where are we going?" "To Greece." "Ah," Gu Jingza said. "Why?" Lin Che said, "We're going so far away, and you didn't tell me why. I'm curious." "Didn't we say we were going to relax?" Lin Che pouted. She felt that things weren't that simple. The next day they arrived in Greece. They weren't in a hurry. Lin Che thought that one of the benefits of being rich was that he didn't have to rush when he went abroad to play. Seeing that Gu Jingza was taking his time, he said that he would rest first and then prepare for tomorrow. Lin Che browsed through the online game guide and felt that his guide was really not suitable for a big CEO. Chapter 603. Because they were all in a hurry, no one would take their time to find a place to rest and continue their journey. Lin Che put down the game and thought about where he should go tomorrow. He had never been to Greece before. It was a romantic city with white houses and blue coastlines. Many people liked it. She took a photo and sent it to Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin was still very envious. She looked at her and said, "I'm so jealous. You're so romantic." Lin Che said, "Ask Big Brother to bring you out too." Yu Minmin was speechless. "Do you dare to tell Mr. President?" "Forget it. He's so busy every day. I don't dare to tell him. Also, I'm not as lucky as you. I'm just making do with my life. Romantic? Just don't find fault with me." Yu Minmin hung up and saw that Gu Jingming was still reading something. She had said it in a low voice, afraid that he would hear her. Seeing that Gu Jingming didn't react, she quickly lowered her head to write. Just then, she saw that Feng Xiaoqing had called again. She looked at it and quickly went out to answer it. Seeing that she had gotten up to answer the call, Gu Jingming seemed to look in her direction. When Yu Minmin turned back, he had already lowered his head again, making Yu Minmin think that she had been hallucinating. "Hello? Minmin?" Feng Xiaoqing said over the phone. "Are you at Glass Palace?" "Yeah, I went to your studio to look for you, but they said you didn't go." "Oh, why did you look for me? Isn't Lin Che working with my family?" I wanted to give you the contract and thank you for helping me this time. It's okay. No, I have to treat you this time. Let's have a meal, and I'll give you the contract. Yu Minmin thought that she couldn't reject him. The contract was still there, so she couldn't refuse. She could only say, okay then. Where? When Feng Xiaoqing went back, he thought that Yu Minmin was indeed different from before. He didn't know why, but he kept thinking about her. He felt proud whenever he was with her, especially when she used to have a crush on him. She must still have feelings for him now. Otherwise, she wouldn't have helped him so much. When Yu Minmin arrived, he saw that it was a very big hotel. After entering, Feng Xiaoqing sat at a round table inside. In order to imitate the West, this Western restaurant did not have any private rooms. That was why she saw him as soon as she entered. He called out, "This way, Min Min." He warmly welcomed Yu Minmin and pulled out a chair for her to sit down. Yu Minmin looked around and said, "This place looks very expensive." "It's too expensive." "How could that be?" Feng Xiaoqing said, "Even if I were to choose, I would definitely choose a place that suits you. How could I go to a place that's too lousy to treat you to a meal? Besides, this place is pretty good. It's not too expensive." Feng Xiaoqing asked someone to bring the menu. She randomly chose a set meal. Feng Xiaoqing chose a few more dishes and said, "Bring me the red wine I left here to wake you up." The red wine that the waiter brought overlooked very high-end. Yu Minmin didn't expect him to make it so grand and felt even more embarrassed. Actually, she didn't do much, so she didn't need him to thank her. Feng Xiaoqing looked at her and said, "Good wine with good people. Min Min, actually, I thought that you were really different from others. I was right about you." Min Min smiled. "Young Master Feng, you still remember me. You were the most handsome guy in school back then. It's all because everyone praised me. I'm just an ordinary person. How can I not remember you? I really thought that you were a very special person." He stared at Yu Minmin, making her feel even more awkward. He looked very affectionate, and Yu Minmin could easily misunderstand him. However, she thought rationally that it shouldn't be the case. Did he know that she was already married? He was probably just reminiscing about the past because he was a classmate. Yu Minmin was smiling when she heard someone scream from behind. Yu Minmin turned around and looked. There seemed to be some commotion there. Before she could react, she heard someone say, "Mr. President, it's really Mr. President." "Mr. President, Gu Jingming?" Yu Minmin stood up in shock. Feng Xiaoqing didn't expect this either. He looked at Yu Minmin. "This is you." Yu Minmin's expression changed. "How could it be? I came here myself." Could it be a coincidence? However, Yu Minmin always felt nervous when she saw Gu Jingming outside. He had always been domineering. If he didn't like her, he would keep a straight face. She was still wondering if she had done something wrong, and he was here to catch her. However, before she could think further, Gu Jingming's bodyguards had already come to clear the place. After they came in, Linda looked around. Seeing that there was no one around, she gestured for them to come in. They were only clearing the place to check on the people who had nothing to do. They wouldn't disturb the people who were eating. Then, Gu Jingming walked in. Dressed in a black suit, he looked very calm. He was handsome and awe-inspiring, and it was easy to be mesmerized. Feng Xiaoqing was also surprised. He had wanted to see Yu Minmin and tell her that he had feelings for her. However, he didn't expect that Gu Jingming would come before he could finish his words. Mr. President was actually here. He clenched his fists and stood up as well. Gu Jingming spotted Yu Minmin at first glance. Then he walked over to her. His powerful aura, the boldness and fierceness of a leader of a country, completely swept away Feng Xiaoqing. When he walked over, no one even noticed Feng Xiaoqing, who was standing at the side. They only stared at his radiance. Gu Jingming said, "You're here." Yu Minmin quickly said, "Yeah, I'm eating here. This is my classmate, Feng Xiaoqing." Feng Xiaoqing froze when he heard his name. Gu Jingming tilted his head slightly and glanced at Feng Xiaoqing. Feng Xiaoqing wanted to say something, but Gu Jingming had already turned around. He looked at Yu Minmin and said, "I'm going up. I have something to do upstairs." Phew, so he wasn't here to catch her. But this was too much of a coincidence. She quickly said, "Go ahead then. I won't disturb you." Gu Jingming nodded. He glanced at Feng Xiaoqing indifferently again and said to Yu Minmin, "See you later." What did he mean by, see you later? Were they going back together? Gu Jingming left after he said that. He didn't give her an answer. And Yu Minmin wouldn't be presumptuous enough to ask him now. Anyway, with his personality, he wouldn't say anything if he was too lazy to tell her. After Gu Jingming left, all the gazes fell on Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin was a little confused. She looked at Feng Xiaoqing and said, "This is too much of a coincidence. Have a seat." Feng Xiaoqing laughed dryly. He still hadn't recovered from the shock. Just then, the hotel sent over a bottle of wine. "Madam, this red wine is a gift from our manager. I hope you can try it." They had only sent it over because they found out that she was the president's wife. Being the president's wife was really... Chapter 604. Yu Minmin thanked him. "But it's too expensive. I don't want it." "It doesn't matter, madam. It's just a gesture. It's not a very expensive thing. If you spend more than 1 million yuan in this shop, we will give it to you as a gift." "Over 1 million? What kind of shop is this?" Yu Minmin still wanted to say something, but seeing that everyone was looking, she could only say, "Thank you." From time to time, Gu Jingming would glance at Yu Minmin, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. Yu Minmin couldn't help but wonder what Gu Jingming was up to. If he hadn't come, she would have been able to keep a low profile. But now, he actually came to greet her. What a troublesome person. Opposite him, Feng Xiaoqing said, "I didn't expect Mr. President to come here. Don't you need to go up and take a look?" Yu Minmin said, "There's no need. He's busy with work, and I'm eating. It's fine as long as we don't disturb each other." Hearing her say that, Feng Xiaoqing smiled and said, "Being the president's wife, it must be very annoying." Yu Minmin said, "Fortunately, I don't need to do anything. As long as he was obedient, everything would be fine." Feng Xiaoqing said, "I understand. It must be very scary, but you've always been very independent and strong. I just don't know how you met Mr. President. I've never heard of you knowing Mr. President before." Yu Minmin said, "This was just an accident. It could be considered a coincidence." "And then love at first sight?" "Yeah, I guess so." Feng Xiaoqing suddenly narrowed his eyes and said, "Min Min, you can trust me. You don't have to respond to me in the way you treat outsiders. I won't tell anyone." Yu Minmin felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Feng Xiaoqing. She took a deep breath, clutched the bag in her hand, and said, "I'm going to the bathroom first." She got up and went to the washroom. Sigh. Feng Xiaoqing clenched his fists in frustration. He waited for a while, but Yu Minmin still did not return. Thinking of Yu Minmin's expression just now, he couldn't help but think that she must not be so happy with Mr. President. Otherwise, she wouldn't look so troubled. Perhaps she still liked him, so she wanted to say it but couldn't. That was why she had that expression. When he got up and saw that she was not coming back, he went out to look for her. However, just as he reached the corridor, a tall black silhouette stood there for a long time, causing everyone to stop in their tracks. He looked at the man and muttered, "Mr. President." Gu Jingming squinted at him. Feng Xiaoqing was stunned for a moment before he reacted and said, I just... She went in for a long time and didn't come out. Gu Jingming said, "Is she inside?" Yes. This was the first time the president had spoken to him so directly, just like the last time on the phone, calm and composed. He said, "I'll go in and look for it. Thank you for worrying, young Master Feng." All right. Feng Xiaoqing stopped there, still thinking, is Mr. President going to the women's toilet to look for her? If someone came over... However, when he saw the guards surrounding them and blocking them from a distance, he immediately understood. If you don't want people to follow you, no one can come over. Then why did they still let him come over? Gu Jingming didn't look at him anymore. He pushed the door open and went inside. Yu Minmin was washing her hands. After showering for a long time, she was too lazy to go out. After showering, she did her makeup on her eyes so that she wouldn't have to take it off. However, at this moment, the door was pushed open. When Gu Jingming's shadow appeared behind her, Yu Minmin was startled. You, why was Gu Jingming here? This was the women's toilet. Gu Jingming didn't say a word. He just kept walking forward and looked at Yu Minmin with disdain. The thought that made Yu Minmin feel a little afraid spread in her heart. However, Gu Jingming didn't say a word. Instead, he kept pushing her waist and stared into her eyes. Unknowingly, his hands had already moved from her waist to her side, and slowly, he pressed her against the washroom counter. Yu Minmin felt that he was getting dangerously close to her. Her face moved closer to his. Her dark gaze was like a haze of obsession. The corners of her lips were slightly pursed, as though she was in a good mood and wanted to curl up, but she didn't want to. It made one feel that something was wrong. Her hands were already pushed against the counter behind her. She looked at him and asked, "What are you doing?" The next moment, Gu Jingming carried her up and placed her on the counter. He said, "What do you think I'm doing?" Yu Minmin immediately felt even more uneasy. No, someone will come in." This was the restaurant's washroom. Although it was very expensive and the washrooms were decorated lavishly, there was no smell at all. There was even a faint fragrance, and it was clean and spotless. However, this was still a washroom, and it was a women's washroom. Gu Jingming didn't care at all. He pushed her against the counter and buried his face in it. His two breasts made one feel very hot. He buried his face there and used both his lips and teeth. Yu Minmin immediately grabbed his shoulders and cried, "No! Boo-hoo! What are you doing?" However, because of his intense and sometimes relaxed movements, her breathing became uneven and her body started to heat up. "What? Of course I'm doing you." Yu Minmin was obviously unwilling. "Let's go back. We'll talk about it when we get back. Can you hold on until we go back? I think you can't hold it in anymore. Can you?" "Boo-hoo, I'm not. I see. You're already pandering to me." His hand slowly reached downwards and tugged at that bit of cloth. He didn't loosen it, but he didn't let go either. He rubbed against it. This really made Yu Minmin understand what it meant to be stuck between life and death. Her body was covered in a thin layer of sweat. Her whole body was trembling from his teasing. Then he smiled and said softly in her ear, "I told you, you can't hold it in at all." What she was basically being toyed with by him. She couldn't hold it in. Who could hold it in like this, however? She couldn't use her remaining strength to scold him. She could only hug him and feel him saying softly, "Don't worry, I'll satisfy you right away." Then he lifted her body up and looked at his. When the two of them were completely joined, she screamed in surprise. He said, "Scream, scream. It's better if the people outside can hear you." It was only then that she remembered that they were in a public place. She covered her mouth, but her voice could still be heard faintly. Especially at this moment, he suddenly bit open her hand and directly kissed her lips. Their voices became even more intimate. She couldn't help but feel restless. For a moment, she couldn't think about where she was or who else was outside. Chapter 605. There were faint noises outside, but the two of them were inside. No one else went in or came out, and there were all sorts of faint noises without asking. He knew what was going on inside. Gu Jingming and Yu Minmin. Feng Xiaoqing understood, but his body couldn't help but tremble. He thought of Yu Minmin and Mr. President. His face darkened. After a long time, the noises still didn't stop, and the two of them still didn't come out. Finally, he couldn't wait any longer and left first. Inside, Yu Minmin was trembling in his release. It was finally over. She felt that she was really half dead from exhaustion. She lay on top of him, panting. After a while, she remembered where she was. She hurriedly stood up and looked at Gu Jingming. His clothes were in a mess. The buttons on his shirt were wide open, revealing his muscular chest, which was still dripping with sweat. He walked over quietly and smoothed her hair. Yu Minmin felt that he had actually been here once, and it seemed that he had been here for quite a long time. She felt so embarrassed. Didn't anyone want to use the washroom? Wouldn't they think of something if they couldn't enter the washroom? This Gu Jingming, she had said that she didn't want him. Unfortunately, every time she tried to persuade him, it was useless. When he became domineering, he wouldn't listen to her at all. Furthermore, he wasn't forcing her at all. He was just using his absolute dominance to enlighten her bit by bit. Unknowingly, she had already fallen into his trap. Gu Jingming looked at her confused face. Her lips were red, and her chest was heaving up and down violently. He couldn't help but feel satisfied. He stroked her cheek with his big hand and looked at her. Yu Minmin could feel his delicate movements. He looked very handsome when he looked at her from the side. After his desire was satisfied, he had the sexiness of a mature man. It was hard to resist the sexiness of hormones. Yu Minmin said, "I'll do it myself." Gu Jingming didn't allow it. He looked at her and said, "Don't move." He held her hand and slowly wiped the sweat off her face. He pulled up her shirt and looked at the marks that belonged to him. He couldn't help but feel more comfortable. He happily carried her down and said, "Okay, I'm going out. You can tidy up." Yu Minmin said, "Seriously, here? How could you?" Gu Jingming turned around and said, "Weren't you the one who couldn't help at first?" How could she not restrain herself? "Weren't you the one who pinched me to death just now?" Yu Minmin blushed even more. He quickly packed up his clothes and ran out. After Yu Minmin went out, he could see the guards standing in the distance. Because there were personal guards, they knew that Mr. President was here and no one came over. However, even though no one had seen what she and Gu Jingming had just done, Yu Minmin still felt so shy that she wanted to crawl into the ground. Although the fiery passion just now really made one feel shy, it was also very comfortable. That feeling made one feel as if they were about to fly up into the sky and land back on the ground quickly. It was like a roller coaster, constantly challenging the limits of one's heart. Who was the one who said that Mr. President couldn't do it? He really didn't. Instead, he had so many tricks up his sleeve that it made one want to die. Yu Minmin calmed herself down. When she returned to her seat, she looked at Feng Xiaoqing and cursed Gu Jingming in her heart. He was too much. He had just blocked her in the washroom for so long. She didn't know how to explain herself at all. She said, Young Master Feng, Feng Xiaoqing looked at her and smiled. "Oh, I wanted to ask if you went out to do something." "Oh, yeah, I had something to do, so I went out." "Sorry. That's all." Feng Xiaoqing smiled unnaturally, especially when he saw how she looked. Although she had covered all the parts of her body that should be covered, it didn't seem like there was anything wrong with her at all. However, the satisfied look on her face made it seem as if she was exuding a faint feminine scent. He said, "Continue eating. I was just worried that you weren't full." "No, I'm almost done." Although she hadn't eaten much, she didn't feel hungry at all. She just felt tired and her legs were a little weak. However, it wasn't over yet. Gu Jingming, who she thought had left, suddenly came back. He walked over from afar, the president's bodyguard still following him. He looked at Feng Xiaoqing calmly. This time, he was much more enthusiastic than before. It was obvious that he was in a good mood. "Young Master Feng, how's your meal?" Feng Xiaoqing stood up quickly and looked at Gu Jingming. His strong aura didn't seem to be affected by what had just happened. In fact, it seemed to have become even stronger. Feng Xiaoqing said, "I'm almost done, Mr. President." Gu Jingming said, Min, let's go back together. I'll bring you along." Yu Minmin looked at Feng Xiaoqing and then at the people who were still staring at them curiously. She nodded quickly and said to Feng Xiaoqing, "Thank you for today." Feng Xiaoqing quickly handed the contract over. "This is the contract. Don't forget what you came here for. All right? Thank you for bringing it here personally." "It's nothing. It's my duty. Goodbye." "Okay, goodbye." Yu Minmin smiled at him and followed Gu Jingming. The president and his entourage left the hotel under the escort of a group of bodyguards. Feng Xiaoqing looked outside and saw Yu Minmin leaving with the president's bodyguards. It was a grand sight. Feng Xiaoqing felt a little unconfident in himself. He had thought that Yu Minmin still had feelings for him. But now, looking at Gu Jingming, which woman would think of another man when she was with such a strong man? Especially when the two of them were in the bathroom. Greece. Before Lin Che could think of where to go, Gu Jingza had already prepared everything. He came in and led Lin Che to another place. When they arrived, Lin Che got out of the car and saw that they had arrived at a romantic place. The coastline was as clear as a painting, and the white houses looked like they were in a fairy tale world. Lin Che said in surprise, "This is Santorini, right?" Gu Jingza smiled. "You've grown up. You even know the name of this place." Lin Che said, "Of course. I spent the whole night reading guides for a pour tour." Gu Jingza was speechless. "Pour tour? Yeah, didn't you see? There are a lot of guides for a tour. How do you swim? Chapter 606. That's right. Without your people's arrangements, you could book a cheap hotel wherever you go. You can read the guides and eat some cheap food. Anyway, it's the kind that isn't so extravagant along the way. It's not suitable for a CEO like you. Gu Jingza thought for a moment and said, Indeed, it's a waste of time. Okay, but it's good to try it once in a while. Yeah, you want to try it? Yeah, if there's a chance. He hugged Lin Che. I can try it with you. He wasn't interested in it himself, but it didn't matter if he walked with her. Lin Che smiled and went down to look at the enchanting scenery around them. She smiled and said, It's so beautiful here. It's like a fairy tale world. It doesn't look that big. It looks so big in the pictures, but it looks smaller here. Gu Jingza said, Of course you can't trust the pictures. He pulled Lin Che down. Lin Che looked around and felt that there were indeed many places. It wasn't enough to just look at pictures at home. She had to go out and see what it was like. If it weren't for Gu Jingza, she didn't know when she would have the chance to visit this place. And it was such a luxurious trip where she didn't have to think about anything. While Lin Che was still letting her imagination run wild, Gu Jingza had already brought her to a small villa nearby. It was called a small villa because it was much smaller than the other villas of the Gu family. After entering, Lin Che looked around, thinking that they were going to stay here. But when she looked up, she realized that many people were looking at them. Seeing them come in, everyone bowed respectfully. It seemed that they had been waiting for them for a long time. When they walked into the room, she saw that there were many wedding dresses on the clothes rack opposite them. Lin Che was completely stunned. She said, Wow. What are these? Gu Jingza turned around and looked at Lin Che, who was covering her mouth. Although we can't hold a wedding for now, we can try taking wedding photos first. Wedding photos? Lin Che had never worn a wedding dress before, even if she was an actor. She had never been in such a scene. Wedding dress. So he had brought her here to take wedding photos. Lin Che turned around and looked at Gu Jingza. Gu Jingza said, Let's go and try on the wedding dress. Lin Che nodded and followed him in. The cameraman was an oily man. He was a little effeminate, but he looked very cute. When he saw Lin Che, he immediately said, Aya, you're so beautiful. Mrs. Gu, it's my honor to be able to film for you today. Lin Che was taken aback. He felt that the man looked familiar. Hey, aren't you the photographer who won the award last year? Yes, madam, you know me. Of course he knew. The professional photographer who won the international photography competition was Victoria's Secret's exclusive photographer. Her wedding photos were taken by a photographer from Victoria's Secret. Lin Che walked over to choose a dress. There were different types of wedding dresses. Some were slim-fitting, some were fluffy, some were aesthetically retro, and some were flirtatious. Lin Che randomly chose one to try first. When she came out, the puffy skirt was tied around her waist. The hand-sewn bow was of different sizes, and the layers of gauze underneath were stacked together. Gu Jingza was resting by the side. He raised his head when he heard someone exclaiming. He saw Lin Che standing there in white. She was as beautiful as an angel in the snow. Everyone's gaze fell on Lin Che. She was too beautiful. How could there be a woman who could wear a wedding dress so well? How could there be a woman who could wear white so well? Madam, you're so beautiful. I think this dress is great. Yeah, Madam hasn't put on makeup yet. You'll look even better if you put on makeup later. Gu Jingza stood up and looked at Lin Che. He fixed his eyes on her and said, Why don't you try something else? Lin Che thought that this dress looked good, but she didn't want to just try one. Since she had prepared so many dresses, she had to try a few more. Hence, she chose a retro wedding dress that was tight at the waist. When she came out again, everyone exclaimed again. This time, she chose a body-hugging dress. It was made of a sturdy cotton material with a floral pattern. It half-covered her body, making her look sexy and elegant. Wow, she's so beautiful. She looks like a princess. Everyone exclaimed again. They knew that Lin Che was a celebrity, so they knew that she would look better than most people and would look better in clothes. But they didn't expect her to look so good. Gu Jingza was in a good mood when he saw how everyone was praising Lin Che. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Che. They were right to praise her. She was beautiful. He walked over and hugged her shoulders. He looked down at her and smiled. I think both dresses look good. Why don't we take both? The cameraman said, That's great. Madam's figure is great. Her face and neck are beautiful. You'll look beautiful in front of the camera. I'm honored to be able to take pictures of someone as beautiful as you. You're as beautiful as the scenery. Really? Lin Che pursed her lips and smiled. Her cheeks were hot. I really can't accept such compliments. Of course not. You can definitely accept it. You didn't see how stunning you looked when you came out. You'll see when you look at the photos later. Gu Jingzi said, her arm is still injured. Don't do anything too dangerous. Oh, of course. Don't worry. We'll just take her normal look. We want it to be natural. Very natural. Because Madam is the most beautiful when she smiles naturally. The stylist and the makeup artist walked over together and helped Lin Che with her makeup. Lin Che's makeup had always been good because her skin was very healthy. After staying in the Gu family for so long, she had been eating the nutritious and balanced meals of the Gu family chefs every day, which was good for her skin. Gu Jingzi sat there and looked at Lin Che's makeup. He thought to himself, this is a piece of unpolished jade. He could see the embryonic form back then. Now that she had grown even more beautiful, it was really amazing. Although he knew that she was beautiful from the start, he didn't pay attention to her appearance for a long time because he was used to her. No matter what she looked like, he felt that she was pretty. Now that he looked at her carefully, he felt that they were right. She had become even more beautiful. Her face seemed to have blossomed, and her skin was softer and smoother. It was as if water could be squeezed out of her skin at any time. It was as smooth as a baby's. He felt even happier in his heart, especially when he saw everyone looking at Lin Che with such adoration. He seemed to feel especially satisfied. By the time he was done with his makeup, Gu Jingzi had already changed his clothes. The gray suit that matched with the white wedding dress made Gu Jingzi look a lot more sunny. He didn't look as cold as before, and Lin Che's eyes lit up when she saw him. Chapter 607. Gu Jingzi had always made her feel that he wasn't a prince, but a knight. He had a dark aura and a terrifying aura. He protected her, but he himself was gloomy. But today, Gu Jingzi was more like a prince. He was as cold as ever, but there was more warmth in his eyes. Lin Che looked at him and walked over step by step. She suddenly started to look forward to the wedding. Perhaps the purpose of the wedding wasn't to let everyone know who she was married to, but to see him welcome her warmly. It was as if he was announcing to God that he would take her to a new world. She only thought that she really wanted people to see him like this. He was too warm, too handsome, and too affectionate. She didn't know why everyone was so afraid of him. Lin Che thought that Gu Jingzi really wasn't that scary, but no one could see his good side. She walked over, and the photographer said from behind, That's great. They're a perfect match. Mr. Gu, Mrs. Gu, can we go for the shoot now? Gu Jingzi nodded and led Lin Che out. They drove to the seaside. After getting out of the car, they could see a boat parked on the blue coastline. Gu Jingzi said, I just bought a boat. Let's go up and take the photo first. Lin Che nodded and was pulled onto the boat. They could see the blue sea from above and the beautiful fairy tale castle in front of them. It looked very beautiful. Lin Che could also see quite a number of people filming below. They looked at the big ship and the two people on it, and they were all very surprised. Lin Che said, There are many people here to take their wedding photos. Gu Jingzi nodded. So, we'll go to the boat to take the photo in case we're disturbed. The sea breeze blew. The photographer adjusted the camera and looked at the two people. One was Gu Jingzi, and the other was Mrs. Gu. He thought for a long time, but still didn't dare to use the method he usually used with the models. He could only say to the two of them, This, please do whatever you want. We'll take the photo first. Lin Che said, Mr. Photographer, please let us do whatever we want. Otherwise, I've never taken wedding photos before. I don't know how to do it. But the photographer looked at Gu Jingzi, who was standing there, and didn't dare to order him around. It was okay to let him order the models around. It was okay to yell at the models. Because he was a famous photographer, even models had to suck up to him. However, how could he yell at the great Gu Jingzi? Forget it. How would he dare to do that? Lin Che stood there and watched for a long time. Gu Jingzi suddenly pulled Lin Che over and said to her, "Turn around and look at me." Lin Che suddenly felt Gu Jingzi's face move closer to him. That handsome face carried a gentle aura as he leaned closer to her. His hands held onto her shoulders, as though he was taking in her fragrance. Lin Che's eyes widened as he scratched his head in confusion. His dazed look was especially adorable. The photographer immediately saw the bright spots. Having been a professional photographer for a long time, it was easy for him to capture these kinds of beauties. The cameraman started snapping photos in the direction of the two of them. After Gu Jingzi kissed her, he caressed her face with his big hand and pulled her closer to him. Then his eyes filled with sexiness and arrogance as he looked into her eyes. Gu Jingzi, who was exuding a seductive aura, had his back facing the sun. The warm sunlight shone through his body, perfectly accentuating his ravishing figure, making him look as noble as a king. The cameraman was stunned. Not letting go of any chance, he continued snapping away. Then, he gently caressed her body again. The veil on her head floated over gently, all the way to the outside of the boat and into the blue sea. Gu Jingzi looked at her intimately. He hugged her waist and smiled at her. "Just act like usual. Pretend that no one is around. Just do whatever I do to you. Relax." Usually they would be so intimate, but when no one was around, how could he act like that? She was embarrassed and lowered her head, not daring to look at him. But his hand still caressed her face. He kissed her hair, the tip of her nose, and her lips gently. The staff at the side were all dumbfounded by what they saw, because this scene was simply too beautiful. A handsome man and a beautiful woman. Both of them were as beautiful as fairies. At this moment, they had specially dressed up. In this blue sea and blue sky, they were really like a painting. Why did they have to do anything else? Moreover, seeing how Gu Jingzi treated Lin Che so gently and intimately, as if there was no space between them, Gu Jingzi was really gentle. Everyone thought enviously. If Gu Jingzi could be so gentle to them, then it would be worth it even if they died. They couldn't imagine that Gu Jingzi was usually so gentle to Lin Che. That Lin Che was a little too lucky. Looking at Gu Jingzi alone, they would never have imagined that he had such a side to him. But looking at his natural movements, they also knew that this was definitely not the first time they were so intimate. The people below seemed to have seen this scene too. Although they also filmed the scenes on the boat, most of them were rented boats. The boat was very small, so the effect was naturally not as shocking as the big one, especially since there were 2 live models on the boat. Many people were amazed and looked forward to it. Someone couldn't help but say to his team, "Why do they have such a big boat and we don't? Yeah, we also spent a lot of money to go abroad for the wedding photos. Why did they give us such a small boat?" The photography team could only say to them, "That boat was specially custom-made. Our company doesn't have that boat." The photographer said unhappily, "Do we need to pay more? If you do, let us know. We came all the way here. It doesn't matter if we pay more." The photography team was even more speechless. "We really didn't pay more. We really don't have any way to get that boat. It's said that that boat belongs to their family, and they drove it to take photos. We can't even borrow it." "Ah, it belongs to their family?" Everyone looked up. They could only see the beautiful scene, but they couldn't see it clearly. After looking at it enviously for a while, they could only give up. The photographer took some photos. Looking at the photos in the camera, none of them needed to be edited and could be printed directly. After all, the foundation was good, so the photos had to be good. The figure was beautiful, the face was beautiful, and the aura was good. How could it not be good? He felt that these wedding photos were the best he had ever seen. Chapter 608. They took a group of photos from here. Lin Che went down and asked the photographer, "How was it? Did we do well?" She didn't even do anything. She was in a daze. Because Gu Jingzi was always so close to her, she couldn't breathe or think. She didn't even know what she was doing. The photographer made a perfect gesture. "It's great. I think you two should walk alone. You don't have to do it on purpose. It'll make you look beautiful." Lin Che said, "Really? That's great. I don't know how to do it." The photographer smiled. "Madam, you're a famous star. Why don't you know how to do this? You must have done many blockbusters." Lin Che smiled. No, I'm good at acting, but it's killing me to take photos. I don't know how to pose at all. Madam, you're too humble. I've seen your photos of Microforce. They're really good. It was my first time doing that too. It's your first time doing that. Madam, you're really photogenic. You have a good sense of the camera, and your figure is suitable for the camera. That's why you can take good photos. All right, Lin Che wouldn't understand these things. She said, then tomorrow I'll go on a shopping trip with Gu Jingze. You can come with us. We can take photos while walking, right? The photographer said, that's a good suggestion. This kind of wedding photo will be very meaningful. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che gloomily. Everyone then remembered that Gu Jingze hadn't agreed yet. But Lin Che didn't wait for them to agree. Everyone looked at Gu Jingze worriedly. Lin Che then remembered something. He raised his head and looked at Gu Jingze. You said that we're going to try going on a shopping trip, right? He only said to try, but he didn't say that they were going to start. Lin Che smiled at him to please him. But seeing that Lin Che had made up his mind, Gu Jingze nodded and said, only 2 days. Okay. 2 days it is. Also, your arm needs rest. We can't play for too long. All right, it's just a slight fracture. It won't hurt if we don't move it. Of course, Gu Jingze said firmly. Seeing Gu Jingze's stern face, everyone was so scared that they didn't dare to make a sound. Only Lin Che was still protesting. Why are you so fierce? Fierce? You haven't seen anything fiercer, Gu Jingze said. Lin Che held his hand and said, Okay. I'm not stupid. I'll definitely stop if it hurts. Everyone was surprised to see Lin Che flirting with Gu Jingze. Surprisingly, Gu Jingze wasn't angry. He stared at Lin Che for a while before saying, all right. Lin Che then called out with a smile and said to the cameraman, then let's get ready to go tomorrow. The photographer smiled and said, all right, I'm looking forward to this trip. The photographer thought to himself, traveling with Gu Jingze, and a poor one at that. Isn't it amazing? At night, Lin Che once again searched for the notes of the poor games. After a long time, he finally got tired and fell asleep. When he woke up in the morning, Lin Che had already packed his things. He looked at the money in his wallet and said, let me see. We're going on a poor trip. 10,000 yuan per person should be enough. 10,000 yuan? Gu Jingze frowned. Lin Che said, how can it be called a poor trip if it's too much? Gu Jingze could only say, okay. Lin Che said, I booked a guest house tonight. It's on this island. Guest house? It's staying in someone else's house. Everyone has a small room. I booked one for us and one for Mr. Cameraman. After packing their things, she and Gu Jingze set off together. She didn't let anyone follow them, thinking that they were overseas. Even if they could see some Chinese people, they wouldn't be as conspicuous as they were in China. Even if Lin Che was on the road, they wouldn't be blocked. On the other hand, not many people in China knew Gu Jingze's real face. When they saw him, they would probably think that he was a very handsome man and wouldn't think of anything else. The cameraman followed behind them. He had been poor before and had tried this kind of trip, but after he became famous, he rarely went out like this. If it weren't for following Gu Jingze and Lin Che today, a famous cameraman like him wouldn't have come to join in the fun. However, when he saw Lin Che and Gu Jingze walking forward so calmly, he couldn't help but feel that the impoverished life of the rich was different from the impoverished life of the poor. Although it was still a poor trip, the feeling was different. Especially when he saw Gu Jingze on a poor trip, it made him feel that he was simply experiencing life. Thinking of this, he puffed out his chest and raised his head. The three of them walked forward and the atmosphere was very good. Lin Che was wearing a white dress that complemented the scenery. It fluttered lightly and seemed very suitable for the scenery. Gu Jingze was wearing a white t-shirt. The two of them walked side by side with the blue sea and blue sky behind them. It really made one feel relaxed and happy. She felt that the sky here was especially blue. In the camera, it didn't need any embellishment at all. It was just like a postcard. Lin Che said, no wonder so many people think that this place is very romantic and clean. Really, it doesn't feel like a bustling metropolis in America at all. It's just so romantic. Gu Jingze said, After all, America was founded relatively late, so there are more cities. Only the southern cities have many old rural cities like Seattle and New York. These metropolises are all made of steel and concrete. Naturally, they're different from the early European countries. There is a different culture there. Lin Che said, "Oh, so that's how it is?" After hearing the explanation, she raised her head and looked at Gu Jing's calm side profile. The cameraman immediately started snapping pictures. Looking at the picture, he felt that when the two of them were together, even if it was just a normal conversation, it would still look very good. Especially when Lin Che's adoring gaze met Gu Jing's calm face just now. It looked very compatible. No wonder the two of them looked so harmonious when they stood together. The main thing was that their personalities were too compatible. Looking at the pictures in the cameraman was really envious. Sigh, he was simply here to be abused these past 2 days. As they walked, they reached the downtown area. There were small shops on both sides of the street where tourists were buying souvenirs. Lin Che held Gu Jing's hand with one hand and looked at the small accessories. His eyes were already glued to them as he looked at them one by one. As the two of them walked, the cameraman followed behind and took pictures. Turning back to look at the pictures he had taken, there were pictures of the two of them walking hand in hand on the street, pictures of him helping her remove the food from the corner of her mouth, pictures of him watching her eat ice cream lovingly, and pictures of the two of them leaning against each other while looking at things on the street. Every picture was very good, and he couldn't bear to delete it. It was the first time the cameraman had tried this kind of follow pictures. For a moment, he felt that he could do it like this in the future. The effect of a real picture would be different from a posed picture. It was especially loving. Looking at the pictures, he could feel warmth. Chapter 609. Lin Che followed the map on his phone and found a place to eat. After entering, Gu Jing's spoke in French and English, and the waiter immediately prepared delicious food for him. The person next to him was still gesticulating when he heard Gu Jing's mumbling and ordering food. He was so shocked that his jaw dropped. The three of them sat down and ate casually. Lin Che said, "Do the people here speak English or some other language?" Their official language is Greek, but most of the vendors speak English, French, German, and Italian. After all, this place is quite small, and they often move around, so they know a lot of languages. Then just now you were? I was trying out each language to see which one the vendors know. Lin Che looked at him in surprise. The photographer interrupted and said in admiration, "Mr. Gu is really an outstanding example. I'm ashamed of myself. After being in Paris for so many years, I don't even know how to speak French. I'm really ashamed, really ashamed." Lin Che said, "He's the more abnormal type. We're the normal type. It's okay, don't be ashamed." The photographer just smiled. He didn't dare to say that Gu Jingza was abnormal. It's obvious that Mr. Gu has such achievements. After all, you've put in a lot of effort. I really admire your diligence and eagerness to learn. Lin Che thought that was true. Others might not know how busy he was, but Lin Che knew it very well. When he came out to take pictures, he had to deal with work through the phone, and tablet. He almost didn't have a day off for the whole year. In comparison, the employees had a few days off and didn't have to think about anything. As a boss, he had to be busy all year round and couldn't even have a day off. After eating, they went to the guest house that Lin Che had booked. The house was just next door. When they entered, the three of them heard that there was a couple next to it. It seemed like they were here for a honeymoon. They were very happy and exclaimed, "This place is really nice." The man said proudly, "Of course, I booked it online. It's really big. The living room and kitchen are so big. It's just that there are a lot of people here, but it's much better than a hotel. Hotels are so expensive too." Yeah, the girl was very happy. She didn't notice that someone had come in from behind and shouted. The guest house was the house of the locals. The kitchen and living room were shared by the people staying there. Each room was independent. The three of them checked in with the owner. Lin Che and Gu Jing's stayed on the left side, and the photographer's room was on the right side. After entering, she saw that the house was quite big. Lin Che laid down on the bed. She felt that she was very tired after running all morning. From here, he could still hear some movements outside. It seemed that the soundproofing was not very good. Country C had a large population. Wherever he went, he would meet people from Country C. Therefore, Lin Che could understand the conversations outside. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingza and said, "Isn't it too noisy here?" Gu Jingza said, "A little." "Ah, why don't you go back to live?" "Forget it. We can be more noisy at night." Gu Jingza lay down and played with her hair with his fingers. What are you doing?" Lin Che said with a snort. Gu Jingza smiled. He could never get tired of looking at her shy face. However, these few days, because of her arm injury, he really hadn't teased her for a long time. After dinner, the landlord called and invited them out for dinner. When Lin Che and Gu Jingza went out together, they usually didn't get too tired of each other. Therefore, when they saw the couple opposite them holding hands and sticking their faces to each other, Lin Che really wasn't used to that lovey-dovey look. How could they not kiss as they walked? It would be good to keep an eye on the road. As a matter of fact, the two of them walked forward and almost bumped into Lin Che. Fortunately, Gu Jingza waved his arm and snorted at the same time, and the other party only noticed them at once. Seeing Gu Jingza, the girl was a little stunned. However, at the same time, she saw Lin Che and said, "Hey, you look so familiar." "Ah, are you Lin Che?" Lin Che pursed his lips and said, "Everyone says that you look like her, but I'm not." With that said, Lin Che took Gu Jingza's arm and walked out with him. Hearing this, the girl said, "Oh, that's right. Lin Che doesn't have a boyfriend, right? She only has a few rumored partners. Also, why is Lin Che staying here? It's so cheap here. A big star like her must stay in a big hotel. Hey, don't go. You're also from C Country. What's your name?" After all, Lin Che was slightly different in real life than on TV, so the girl didn't dare to easily think that she was Lin Che. Lin Che turned around and said, I'm Xin Yuran." That was the only name she could think of at the moment, so she just said it. "Ah, that's great. I heard that there are many people from C Country traveling abroad." "Sure enough, we've met them. Are you guys here for your honeymoon?" "No, we're just here to have fun," Lin Che said. The girl nodded again and looked at Gu Jingza. For a moment, she thought that he was really handsome, but he didn't like to talk to people. "This is your boyfriend," she said a little shyly. Lin Che said, "Yeah, his name is Chun Yuqing." Gu Jingza turned his head and narrowed his eyes. Lin Che laughed mischievously, seeing that the cameraman had already arrived. He quickly went over and said, "How's the room?" "It's very good, very good. It's very big. Let's go and eat." After eating, "Do you want to go out and take some pictures of the night scene?" "Sure, sure." As they ate, the couple opposite them watched the three of them sitting at another table and talking and laughing. She stared at Lin Che. The more she looked at him, the more she felt that she looked like Lin Che. However, the man next to her was also very handsome, so she liked to stare at him. She said to her boyfriend, "Look at that girl. The more I look at her, the more she looks like Lin Che. Do you think she got plastic surgery after Lin Che? I see a lot of people doing plastic surgery after her." Her boyfriend said, "Plastic surgery isn't good." "What's so good about it?" "Yeah, she's famous." "Do people think she's beautiful just because she's famous? Do they cover for her?" "Plastic surgery is really good nowadays." She harumphed and said, "I think she must have done plastic surgery after Lin Che. She's not a celebrity. How can she be so beautiful? How can an ordinary person be so beautiful? She must have had plastic surgery." On the other side, the three of them had already finished eating. The cameraman had prepared the equipment for the night and was ready to take them out for a shoot. At this moment, the couple also wanted to go out for a walk. When they saw the cameraman holding a tripod, they said, "Wow, are you going out to shoot something?" Chapter 610. Lin Che said, "Yeah, we're here to take our wedding photos, so we're going out to see if we can get anything." "Oh, I see. I heard that many people come to Greece to take their wedding photos now. Did you book a wedding photo studio in China? Is it so cool now that there's a cameraman to take daily photos with you?" Lin Che said, "No, we just took it ourselves." "I know. Did you hire a cameraman to follow you? How much does it cost?" Lin Che said, I don't know either." She wanted to raise her head and ask Gu Jingza, but when she looked at him, she felt that although his face was handsome, it was really cold. It was so tense that she didn't dare to speak carelessly. Her words were stuck in her throat. Lin Che said, "We don't have much money left. We're leaving now. See you tonight." She pulled Gu Jingzi away quickly. The girl watched from behind, feeling very envious. She said to her boyfriend, "Let's take our wedding photos here too." Her boyfriend said speechlessly, "Don't be so sure. They don't look like ordinary people. They actually brought a cameraman everywhere." "What's wrong? Are there many wedding photos here? Who takes wedding photos with them?" The photo studio usually sends a car to follow them. A few couples take turns to take photos and leave in a car after the photos are done. Assign a cameraman to you and let you take photos? Do you really think that the photo studio is that good? They hired a cameraman to follow them. How much money would that cost? The girl became even more excited. "That's great. Let's get someone to take photos like this too. It's so romantic. The photos will be much better than the ones in the photo studio." "Forget it. I don't have the money to hire a cameraman. Just take a look." "Don't be so optimistic." Annoying. What a killjoy. The photos at night weren't as good. It was more outstanding during the day. After all, the sun and the coastline were the signs of this place, so they came back early. Lin Che was so tired that he lay on the bed and didn't move. Gu Jingzi kept pulling her to wash up. She was going to the public area, but she was too lazy to move. Gu Jingzi said, "If you don't want to go, I'll carry you." "Ah. No, I'll go, okay." It was one thing for him to do it at home, but here he was doing it. Wasn't it embarrassing? Lin Che hurriedly went to wash up. When he came back, he was still lying there paralyzed. Gu Jingzi simply washed up. When he came back, he saw that Lin Che had already collapsed. He hadn't changed his clothes, so it was obvious that he hadn't taken a shower. Gu Jingzi said, "Why aren't you showering?" Lin Che said gloomily, I think it's a public place. There's a girl here, so I'm too embarrassed to take off my clothes." Gu Jingzi shook his head. "Isn't this the homestay you chose? Isn't this what you chose?" She was the one who made the right choice, but anything else was fine. But if they were to shower together, there were so many marks on her body, and they hadn't fallen off yet. They were from last night at the hotel. He couldn't touch her, so he purposely left marks on her body. It was too suggestive, so she came back no matter what. "I'm not going to wash. I'm going to hold out until tomorrow. No, I have to wash it. I really can't. Forget it. I'll go get some water for you. Let's clean up in the room." Lin Che raised her head and blinked at Gu Jingzi. She agreed. Gu Jingzi went out to get some water. There was a simple washroom here, but it didn't have any tools to stand in the rain, so he had to go out to shower. As he walked back and forth with the hot water, the owner asked him what he was using the hot water for. He said in fluent English that it was for his wife's body and that it wouldn't dirty his place in the washroom. The owner quickly said, "Oh, I heard that Asians are very considerate to their wives. You really did it. You're great. Don't worry, it's okay." Gu Jingzi smiled and went in with the hot water. Everyone who was listening outside said enviously, "Look at how a boyfriend treats his girlfriend. He's so handsome and so considerate." The chatting men in the room all looked at each other gloomily, begging him not to come out and compare them. They also knew that this man was really not bad. When they were in the washroom just now, they saw his sturdy body, and there were some strange scars on it. It looked like a knife wound. That's sexy. They silently decided that they must go to the gym when they got back. As the saying goes, there's no harm if there's no comparison. Now, not only did he have a perfect body, a beautiful face, but he was also so nice to his girlfriend. Could he give them a way out? Lin Che reluctantly finished showering in the bathroom. After showering, she finally felt comfortable. However, wiping the scars on her body, especially on her chest, still made her feel depressed. After wiping them, she put on her pajamas and leaned against the bed. Gu Jingzi was still looking at his tablet. The room was very small. There was only one bed and a simple cabinet, but it was very warm and pleasant. Lying there, she felt very warm for a moment. It was as if she could see her life many years later, and it would still be so quiet and beautiful. She said, "Actually, it's not bad to travel in poverty. Look, isn't it great? I got to experience the life of a homestay. Moreover, the landlord here is nice, the place is clean, and the food today was good. Most importantly, we can't travel so much in China. Here, we don't have to worry about being surrounded, right? Gu Jingze looked at her. If you want, we can go out more often in the future. No, it's boring to go out all the time. How could she not know that he couldn't always go out in danger like this? Every time, it was because of her stubbornness that he would come out to accompany her. Presumably, many people wouldn't agree. After all, it would be very dangerous for him to leave those bodyguards. Fortunately, he was overseas and kept a low profile. It didn't seem that dangerous. However, it was still not safe. She looked at him and thought to herself, among ordinary people, his excellence was even more evident. He was so amazing. No matter what, he was always one step ahead of others. It was no wonder that he was so good, and it was also no wonder that so many people saw him as an enemy. Presumably, with such a powerful Gu Jingze around, many people couldn't sleep in peace. However, in front of her, he always acted so ordinary. She leaned into his embrace. For a moment, she cherished him a little more, and her heart ached a little. However, at this moment, a discordant voice suddenly pierced through the air. It wasn't loud, but it still sounded weird. She had thought that it was pretty good just now, but now, she suddenly felt a little worried. This was the voice of that couple. Gu Jingze was certain. Lin Che's face was full of awkwardness. This is also an experience. However, Gu Jingze smiled and lifted her face. Looking into her clear eyes, he said, I have a good idea. What idea? Using violence to curb violence. What? Chapter 6:11. But before she could resist, he had already pressed her down with his long arms. His body slowly pressed against hers, and he kissed her lips lightly. Sure enough, she couldn't hear anything because her heart was filled with his light kisses. When he did this, his eyes stared right into hers. That sexy, domineering gaze had already occupied all her thoughts. He carefully avoided the spot where her arm had fallen. He kissed it first and then pressed his body against hers. After a while, there was no sound in the room next to hers. It was the same in the other rooms, but here after a while there was still movement, but the sound was softer than theirs. Because Gu Jingze was very good at controlling himself, he had a good rhythm, and his movements were not rough. Every time, he could go deep into the cave without wasting any energy, but he could also achieve the greatest satisfaction. They could do whatever they wanted at home, since the soundproofing was good and no one could eavesdrop on them. But it was different here, so he deliberately slowed down and his movements became gentler. But it was still too long. The next day, when Lin Che woke up, she moved her arm. It still hurt a little. She retracted her hand and rubbed her eyes. Seeing that Gu Jingze was not around, she put on her pajamas and went out to wash up. When she went out, she realized that everyone was looking at her with dubious gazes. She did not think about anything else. She only thought that maybe she was too sloppy in the morning, so everyone kept staring at her. She should hurry up and wash up. When she went to brush her teeth, the young lady beside her looked at her and smiled, blushing. Aya, you are too lucky. Lin Che was stunned. She did not know what she was talking about. After brushing her teeth, she went out. Another girl came over and raised an eyebrow at her. It was a foreigner. She said directly, Oh, your boyfriend. So strong. Too what? Too strong? Her boyfriend? Lin Che wondered what Gu Jingze was doing early in the morning. Why did everyone think he was strong? She shook her head and entered the room with a confused look on her face. After seeing her go in, the people outside began to talk to each other. It was an hour last night, right? You guys heard it too? Of course, it was so exciting. The girls looked at the men beside them, speechlessly. Look at how hard he worked, and then look at them. The men were the ones who were going to complain. This man really didn't give others a way out. Along the way, every scene made the cameraman feel very intoxicated. Before leaving, the photographer shook Lin Che's hand and said, The shoot this time was really great. I'm looking forward to the opportunity for us to work together on some projects. Lin Che smiled and said, You're too polite. It's my fortune to be able to cooperate with you. The photographer sent the negatives to Lin Che, and Lin Che looked at them. She had never taken many photos with Gu Jingze. Looking at him like this, she felt really good. He also looked good in the photo. In the frozen frame, there was his smile, his cheeks, his eyes. This man had a good image and was very photogenic. TSK, TSK. If she was a talent scout, she would feel that it was a waste for this man to not be a star or an actor. However, in addition to his good looks, he has other advantages. It would be a waste to only be a star. Lin Che selected a few and sent them to Yu Minmin and Shin Yuran. Yu Minmin said straightforwardly, "Wow, you guys want to take wedding photos. Are you guys going to have a wedding?" Lin Che replied, "Not really. We just came out to take some photos for fun." "Okay, Gu Jingza treats you so well. It's really a great abuse for us. Get lost." After Shin Yuran saw it, she couldn't stop yelling, "This photo is amazing. If I sell it, I'll be able to earn a lot of money, right?" I bet a lot of people will be shocked to death by Lin Che and Gu Jing's private wedding photos. How dare you send them to me so casually? I really love you so much. I can't let you down since you trust me so much. Lin Che smiled and replied, "Okay, how will you repay my trust? Next time when you go out, bring me along. I'll carry a load and lead the horse for you." "Really? You can also bring me out to show off and have fun. Let's go to a bigger city for a vacation." "Okay, if you want to go, ask your Chin Yuching to bring you. Get lost." Lin Che had a great time this time. After returning home, he rested for another day before preparing to go to the set for the last day of filming. Gu Jingza went to work at the company after returning home. He gave her a call and said that they would go back together that night. While she was waiting for the scene to start, Yu Minmin arrived. "You're finally willing to come back." There was someone following behind her. Lin Che didn't notice and only said, "I was injured. I couldn't have come, but I insisted on coming." However, Lin Che saw that the person following behind her was Shui Yang. Lin Che sat up and saw that he had changed his clothes. He looked fairer and fresher, as if he had just done some styling. Compared to before, he looked much more nimble. Shui Yang looked at Lin Che apologetically. "Sister Che, I'm sorry. I caused you to break your hand." Lin Che quickly said, I wasn't talking about you. I was joking with Minmin." Yu Minmin smiled and tugged at Shui Yang. "See, I've done a good job, haven't I?" Lin Che remembered that Shui Yang had already been signed by their agency. Lin Che looked at Shui Yang and nodded with a smile. "Yeah, not bad. You're starting to look good. But do you have any plans for the future?" Yu Minmin nodded. "I've already auditioned for a movie, but it's the third male lead. It's not a big role." Shui Yang said, "No, Sister Che. I think the role is already very good. I only had a few more lines than the extras. This is the most scenes I've taken on." Lin Che nodded. He felt that his personality was actually quite stable. "Yeah, everyone starts with a small role. I also hope that you can develop in a down-to-earth manner. I think Yinshi will be very happy to see you in a movie." At the mention of Lu Yinshi, he was slightly moved. He nodded and said, "I will continue to work hard. I hope that one day I can be as amazing as Gu Jingyu and be admired by others." "And be admired by her," Lin Che said, "I also hope that you can have that day. When that time comes, you'll be our company's cash cow." "Hee." Shui Yang said, "It's still too early to say that. Thank you, Sister Che, for giving me a chance. Not only did you let bygones be bygones, but you were also willing to sign me." Lin Che said, "That's nothing. I only signed you because I think you're suitable. Sister Yu isn't an idiot. She's very good at judging people. Anyway, you have to develop well. We all have high hopes for you." Chapter 6:12. Shui Yang said immediately, "Don't worry, Sister Che. We'll definitely develop well and live up to your expectations." Because this was the film studio city and she was in the modern city, there were also ancient cities. Lin Che's witchcraft notes was similar to a modern fantasy, so the filming location was here. Shui Yang was still an extra on the other side, so they left very quickly. Yu Minmin watched him leave and said to her, "I think he's not bad. He's an obedient little fresh meat. I've trained him according to his acting skills. But if he wants to be famous now, he has to join some big IP first. It's not enough now. I'll try to get some good TV shows in the future." Lin Che nodded and said, "Oh yeah, come to my house tonight." "What's wrong?" "Nothing. We have hot pot at home. We'll cook it ourselves. I've asked the kitchen to prepare it, and I've asked Xin Yuran and Xin Yuqing to come too. Yu Minmin said, wow. Cooking at your house, won't your husband be mad? Lin Che said, why would he be mad? It smells so bad. No, I've told Gu Jingza. He'll eat with us? Yu Minmin said, it's hard to imagine what Gu Jingza looks like when he eats hot pot. It's just eating. What else can it be? Of course. The first thing I think of when I see Gu Jingza is that he eats Western food and simple food. We've never seen him eat hot pots so elegantly before. Lin Che said, okay. Then you'll see it today. Oh yeah, if Big Brother is free, can you ask him to join us? Why are you and your wife not together? I've never seen you together before. Yu Minmin was stunned. I'll ask, but we're not like you. We're a loving couple. We're not as sweet as you two. Go away, who's sweet? After talking to Yu Minmin, Lin Che finished shooting a few scenes. Soon, he and Xin Yuran went home together. Xin Yuran and Xin Yuqing waited outside to meet up with Lin Che before entering the Gu house together. When Lin Che arrived at the Gu house, he told the security guard to let Yu Minmin in when she arrived. However, seeing that it was Yu Minmin, the security guard probably wouldn't stop her. Yu Minmin went back and asked, is Mr. President back? Yes, Mr. President went out for a visit today. He came back early because he was not feeling well. Not feeling well? Yu Minmin walked in immediately. She saw Gu Jingming standing by the French window, looking out with his hands behind his back. Yu Minmin asked as she walked, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? No. Hearing her voice, he turned around and looked at Yu Minmin. What's the matter? Oh, no. If you're not feeling well, you should rest. I came to take a look. Yu Minmin looked at him for a while before she turned her head and said calmly, oh right. She scratched her head and said, Lin Che said that the Gu family will be having hot pot tonight and asked us to go over to have some fun. If you're free, you can come along. Gu Jingming narrowed his eyes and turned around to stare at Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin's heart was filled with a strange feeling from that wanton look. She hurriedly said, I'm just asking. You're busy. Are we going to Jingzai's place? He suddenly asked. Yu Minmin said, yeah. Gu Jingming pondered for a moment. Okay. What he meant was he really going? Yu Minmin suddenly regretted it. She was just being polite. She didn't expect him to take it seriously. Gu Jingming walked over. Seeing that Yu Minmin was still standing there with her brows lowered, he turned around and said, what's the matter? Let's go. Okay. Yu Minmin hurriedly thought to herself that she was going to die, but she still had to pack up. Lin Che waited outside for a while and saw that Xin Yuran and Xin Yuqing had already arrived. Xin Yuqing parked the car at the entrance, and the two of them walked over together. Minmin isn't here yet? Xin Yuran asked. Lin Che nodded. Yeah, he's not here yet. Just as he finished speaking, he saw Yu Minmin arrive. But what was surprising was that the car that came over was the president's usual car, followed by the president's personal bodyguard's car. Lin Che was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Wow, Mr. President and Minmin are here together. Xin Yuran said in surprise. Really? They're really here together? Of course. Is that the president's personal bodyguard? Gosh, is our meal today a state banquet? What national banquet? Lin Che quickly said to the security guard. Go and tell Gu Jingza. She thought that Yu Minmin would come along. She didn't tell her that Gu Jingming would come because Gu Jingming usually didn't hang out with Yu Minmin. She thought that they wouldn't come together this time. Gu Jingza heard this and immediately came out to see. Gu Jingming got out of the car. Lin Che, Xin Yuran, and Xin Yuqing stood there together. After Gu Jingming got out of the car, Yu Minmin hurried over from the other side. Standing behind Gu Jingming, Yu Minmin looked uncomfortable. She gave Lin Che a look from behind, implying that she didn't want him to come. Just then, Gu Jingza finally arrived. Brother, it's rare to see you here. Gu Jingming looked at him and said, What? Do you mean that I'm not welcome here? Of course not. You're too busy. You won't talk to me if there's nothing important. You say it as if you're not busy. The two of them greeted each other. Gu Jingming patted Gu Jingza's shoulder, and they walked in together. Gu Jingza said, Come in. We're making hot pot in the garden because it's too hot. Hearing this, Xin Yuqing said from behind, Really? That's great. The Gu family's garden has a nice view at night. The group of people entered. The servants were already prepared and welcomed them from both sides. However, someone came down from the stairs when they heard the commotion. They took a closer look and realized that it was Mo Huiling. Yu Minmin pulled Lin Che and said with her head tilted, I almost forgot that this woman is still here. Her hand hasn't recovered yet. I don't know. Lin Che glanced up and ignored her. Mo Huiling hurried down when she saw so many people. Mo Huiling had seen that the family was preparing something early in the morning. When she saw that people had come, she realized that they had invited people to their house for dinner. She took a closer look at the person. Chen Yuqing was actually invited, and more importantly, Mr. President actually came. She hurried down to greet him. Hello, Mr. President. Gu Jingming raised his head and looked at the woman in front of him strangely. He seemed to have thought for a long time, but couldn't remember who the person in front of him was. Chapter 613. Mo Huiling looked up at Gu Jingming. Seeing the puzzled look on his face, she said in surprise, Mr. President, I'm Mo Huiling. You've met me before. How could she not have met Gu Jing's eldest brother when she was with him? Moreover, she was the eldest daughter of the Mo family. However, Gu Jingming just looked at her and said, oh, hello. Obviously, he didn't remember. Mo Huiling's face immediately turned red with anger. Mr. President, I used to be with Gu Jingze. When I was with Jingze, did I have dinner with you? Gu Jingming still looked at her and said softly, sorry, I have a bad memory, so I don't remember much. Mo Huiling was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. However, seeing that there were several people looking at them, she felt that it would only be more embarrassing for her to stand there. She could only stand aside and watch Gu Jingming walk past. Behind her, Yu Minmin glanced at her and sized her up before following him. Shen Yuran rolled his eyes at her and walked over. Lin Che looked at her and said to the servant, ask the kitchen to prepare some water for us. Then he walked over too. Gu Jingze didn't even bother to look at her. He walked over as well. Mo Huiling gritted her teeth angrily. When she raised her head, she saw that the servant was holding back her laughter and looking at her. Her eyes were full of mockery. Mo Huiling stomped her foot and snorted. After she walked over, she could still hear the servant talking in low voices. Although she couldn't hear what they were saying, it was obvious that they were talking about her. Mo Huiling felt her face burning as if she had just been slapped. She turned around and saw Lin Che and Gu Jingze standing together. Gu Jingming was on one side and Yu Minmin was on the other. Shen Yuran and Chen Yuqing sat down together. Lin Che looked up and greeted Gu Jingming with a smile. Mo Huiling thought angrily, why can I be so close to these people, but I can't? Because she was too stupid and low-key. She thought that it was enough to love Gu Jingze and never thought about the people around him. However, Lin Che was better than her. In such a short period of time, he had already determined his target, which was the people around Gu Jingze. Lin Che was too lazy to care about others. He first directed the kitchen staff to help set up the table and cook the hot pot outside. Gu Jingze was also suspicious of Gu Jingming's arrival. He kept glancing at Gu Jingming. Gu Jingming didn't seem to care. He was talking to Gu Jingze casually. Yu Minmin didn't dare to make a sound. Shen Yuran didn't expect that Gu Jingming would attend today's gathering. Previously, when there was Gu Jingze, he could pretend that he didn't exist. Now that there were two great Buddhas standing here, who could pretend that they didn't exist? Therefore, Shen Yuran just sighed and looked at Chen Yuqing as if to say that eating hot pot was really a little awkward. Seeing Shen Yuran looking at him like this, Chen Yuqing smiled and said, Hey, President Gu, I heard that you took wedding photos. Why didn't you post them? Gu Jingze glared at Chen Yuqing. Chen Yuqing said, Why? We're so familiar with each other. Why don't you show us? I've never seen those weird movements before, President Gu. Lin Che quickly said, What weird movements? Chen Yuqing said, They're the weird movements when taking wedding photos. I've seen some people take photos. The photographer will say, Groom, point to the sky with the bride. Imagine flying up into the sky with the bride. Isn't that what they do? Everyone laughed heartily. Shen Yuran said, You imitated it too well. Where did you see it? It's true. I've seen it before too. At that time, I almost died of laughter. Don't tell me you guys were also like this when you filmed it. Shin Yuran couldn't imagine what Gu Jingze looked like when he did those movements. Lin Che was even more speechless. Alright, I didn't do those movements at all. Where did you see them? Shin Yuran said, Hey, there's no use talking about it. Just send us a look. Let me see what you've taken. We'll know when we see it. Yumimin also said, Yeah. Let us see. You must have saved it on your phone. We won't leak it to others. Chun Yuqing said, Hey, I want to see it too. Lin Che had no choice but to take out his phone and show them. Shin Yuran took it. Yumimin quickly went over too. Wow, this one is too close. Damn, he kissed her just like that. This one looks good. Although the dress is his, the background and movements are beautiful. This one looks good even without the wedding dress. Look at President Gu's expression. He's so doting. The two of them exclaimed as they watched, making Lin Che even more speechless. Chun Yuqing also saw a few photos. He sighed and said, Tisk, it's indeed different. Shin Yuran sighed as he scanned through the photos. This world is really all about looks. Yu Minmin said, Of course. Don't you see who discovered Lin Che? She hasn't been in the industry for so many years for nothing with her looks. Shin Yuran said, Forget it. Didn't you say that you didn't think highly of her in the first place? Yu Minmin said, In the industry, besides looks, it's also about fate. She wasn't mature enough at that time and didn't have the chance to get a good show. I also want to earn money. Okay, boss. My whole family depends on me. I can't just not earn money and support her alone. The two of them continued to talk among themselves, not forgetting to scroll through their phones. But you really didn't do the movements that Chun Yuqing described. They all look very heartwarming and not pretentious at all. Chun Yuqing also noticed it. He leaned back, feeling a little bored. He shook his head and said, Really, Gu Jingze, your life can't be so perfect. You should show us your awkward side from time to time. Isn't that good? Gu Jingze looked at him. Why should I show it to you? Shin Yuran also sighed. He had the same thought as Yu Minmin and Chun Yuqing. The photos were very beautiful. They were not pretentious at all, and they didn't have any of the pretentiousness that could be seen in a normal wedding photo. It just looked like the two of them were standing together in love. It was especially beautiful. Shin Yuran said, Looks like it's impossible to see President Gu make a fool of himself in this lifetime. Lin Che said, You guys are so bad. Why would you want to see someone make a fool of themselves? She snatched the phone back and stopped showing it to them. All right, let's eat first. Lin Che saw that the hot pot was already bubbling, so he quickly called everyone to eat. Chapter 614. The taste of the hot pot was almost the same. The chefs here used good ingredients and the food was clean. Everyone ate happily. However, the men didn't like spicy food. Instead, they ate the clear soup pot more. After eating the hot pot, Lin Che felt very satisfied. He was full, so he licked his stomach and went out to rest. Yu Minmin also ate too much, so she followed him out. She touched Lin Che's arm and said, I wanted to say that I wonder what the men of the Gu family eat hot pot like. But it turns out she was very disappointed. Gu Jingze, Gu Jingming, and the others ate the hot pot like a Westerner. There wasn't even a drop of sweat on their faces. They ate slowly. Yu Minmin said, Do you think that the education they received from a young age was to groom them into statues? Maybe. Gu Jingze was walking over. Yu Minmin tactfully left the night to the two of them. She smiled at Lin Che and said, I won't let you off so easily. I'm going to go. After Yu Minmin left, Gu Jingze came to Lin Che's side. Lin Che ate until she wanted to burp. She looked at Gu Jingze and said, You ate a lot today. Gu Jingze said, Silly, you can eat whenever you want. You ate so much. It's not good for your health to overeat. Lin Che touched his bulging stomach. Oh, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. Let's go out and digest. Gu Jingze nodded and took her out of the Gu family for a walk. The night was just nice. Lin Che said happily, It feels good to have a gathering with friends. I didn't expect Big Brother to come too. Yeah, Big Brother doesn't usually come to these private gatherings. He has his own circle and doesn't interact with others. You too? Lin Che found it strange. Why were the circles of the three brothers different? Gu Jingzi said, "Why should we hang out if we have different interests? Big brother likes horseback riding, go, and golf. I don't like those, so we can't be in the same circle." Okay. Didn't you play together when you were young? No, Gu Jingzi said. Gu Jingzi said, "When we were young, eldest brother was calm, and Jingyu was playful. When Jingyu caused trouble, eldest brother was responsible for dealing with it. But eldest brother was too lazy to play with him." Lin Che thought that the three brothers were not bad. However, she asked curiously, Gu Jingyu caused trouble, and big brother went to settle it. "What are you doing?" "Let's watch the show." "What?" Gu Jingzi said. "Let's watch Gu Jingyu make a scene and see how big brother will settle it." Lin Che's face was full of surprise. This Gu Jingzi was too outrageous. "Aren't you going to help? You're just watching the show. Where's your brotherhood?" Gu Jingzi said, "Since someone is going to settle it, why should I waste my energy? I can just watch the show." Well, Lin Che concluded that the eldest brother should be the leader. He was so domineering at the beginning, while Gu Jingyu was the younger brother who liked to make trouble everywhere. He was a rich playboy. As for Gu Jingzi, he had been a profiteer since he was a child. He had been scheming at such a young age. Lin Che suddenly wanted to see what Gu Jingzi looked like when he was young. She was also a little jealous of Mo Huiling. They had known each other since they were young, and she could see Gu Jingzi when he was young. She also wanted to participate in his life at that time. Gu Jingzi must have been very fun at that time. Unfortunately, Lin Che at that time was still being bullied by the Lin sisters and the Lin family. While Lin Che was letting her imagination run wild, she felt a pain under her foot. Ouch! She didn't pay attention and kicked the steps in front of her. She was wearing flip-flops, so her toes were sore, and she squatted down. Gu Jingzi quickly squatted down as well. "What's wrong with you?" "I kicked my foot. I'm so unlucky." Gu Jingzi looked at her speechlessly. He pulled her up and said, "You're so clumsy. You don't even know how to look at the road. If you go out by yourself, you might even lose yourself. You're exaggerating." "Ouch! Is it because of the steps? They're not in the right place." Gu Jingzi shook his head. He knew that she would find another reason, so he couldn't be bothered to refute her. He tapped her head and said, "All right, don't move anymore. I'll carry you." "Ah, no. Lin Che was pulled onto his back. Lin Che laid there, his two hands grabbing onto both of her hands, wrapping them around his neck. His hands then reached behind his back and lifted both of her legs. He steadily carried her on his back, and only then did he walk forward. All right, Lin Che felt that her foot really hurt, so she didn't move anymore. Leaning on his back, she looked ahead and said, "Oh yeah, big brother hasn't seen Mo Huiling before?" Gu Jingzi said yes. "Ah, then why did big brother say that he didn't know her just now?" "Actually, I've only seen her a few times," Gu Jingzi said. "I've only seen her occasionally, but not intentionally." "Why not? You've been with Mo Huiling for so long." "It's just," Gu Jingzi said, "because of some other reasons, it's not convenient for us to meet." Gu Jingzi thought about it. He really hadn't seen her a few times, nor had he brought Mo Huiling out much. Perhaps it was because they had seen Mo Huiling a few times, but everyone hated her. Not many people liked her, so they gradually stopped wanting to bring her out. At that time, he didn't know why everyone just didn't like Mo Huiling, but he felt that Mo Huiling was a little willful and less popular, so not many people liked her. But he didn't expect to meet such a wonderful person like Lin Che. Even though she was sloppy, stupid, silly, and weird, and didn't have any etiquette education, so many people had a good impression of her. Thus, he seemed to gradually like bringing Lin Che out to meet people because he never had to worry about her making people angry. And even though she looked silly, she was within her boundaries. Even if she joked, it was harmless. In short, when he was with her, he felt comfortable. Gu Jingzi carried Lin Che all the way inside. Seeing Gu Jingzi carry Lin Che in, Yu Minmin jumped up and said hurriedly, Look, Gu Jingzi carried Lin Che in." Hearing this, Xin Yuran and Qin Yuqing ran out first. Gu Jingming also walked out slowly behind them. Yu Minmin walked over first. Seeing Gu Jingzi carefully help Lin Che down, she asked, "What happened?" Lin Che said, "It's nothing. I just bumped my foot." Shin Yuran squeezed in from behind and said with a smile, "Oh, you're indeed a woman in love. When there's no man around, you can carry a gas tank and walk as if you're flying. When there's a man around, you can't even open a bottle of mineral water. And now, you have to carry her back even if you bump your foot." Chapter 6:15. When Lin Che heard this, his face turned red. "Shin Yuran, I want to see you spouting nonsense again." She chased after Shin Yuran. Shin Yuran laughed and asked Shin Yuqing to block her. Lin Che couldn't catch her after running around for a while. However, Shin Yuran was envious of Lin Che. Gu Jingze was too nice to her. The reason why Lin Che was so unreasonable now was because Gu Jingze had spoiled him. But Gu Jingze was happy to spoil her. How could she not be envious? Okay. We're getting ready to go back," Shin Yuran said. "We won't disturb you two anymore." Lin Che snorted and said, "So early? I think it's not that you don't want to disturb me, but that you don't want us to disturb you." Lin Che raised her eyebrows and looked at Shin Yuqing. This time, it was Shin Yuran's turn to shout. She circled around Lin Che and said, "Go away. Don't try to change the topic to someone else. Do you think I don't know your tricks?" The men watched as the women quarreled. They didn't get involved and just watched from the side. When they were done, they reached the door. Lin Che watched as the men got into the car and the president's bodyguards left with Yu Minmin and Gu Jingming. She stretched and walked in. But when she turned around, she saw Mo Huiling standing there and looking at her. Mo Huiling said, "What are you doing?" "I'm just looking. I'm not going to do anything." However, as she said this, she suddenly felt like throwing up. Mo Huiling couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of saliva. The helper was speechless and watched from behind. Mo Huiling shouted immediately and said uncomfortably, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and fix it for me." Thinking that Lin Che was still here, she rolled her eyes and held her stomach. This child is too naughty. Why doesn't she learn from Daddy? Look at how steady he is. Lin Che looked at the thing she vomited and felt a wave of disgust. He himself almost vomited. She glanced at Mo Huiling. Seeing that the helper was also disgusted, she went back to her room. Closing the door, she felt like throwing up even more. Gu Jingze saw her leaning against the door and holding her chest. He frowned and asked, "Have they left? What's wrong?" Lin Che said, It's fine. I just saw Mo Huiling vomit, and it made me want to vomit too." Gu Jingze said, "That's enough. I think you're throwing up because you ate too much. Don't eat so much all of a sudden next time. Do you hear me?" Seeing Gu Jingze's sullen face, Lin Che smiled and said, Yes. I will. Okay." Mo Huiling vomited for a while. She felt like she was about to collapse, but no one paid attention to her. She shouted angrily, "Just you wait, you bunch of trash." The servant looked at her with disdain written all over her face. She wasn't their wife, so why was she showing off here? Mo Huiling returned to her room angrily. Tonight, she had seen Lin Che laughing and talking happily. Gu Jingze had carried her back, but she seemed to have been forgotten. When Gu Jingming saw her, he said he didn't know her. She was so angry. When she was lying on the bed, she heard the phone ring. She was about to throw a tantrum, but when she saw that the caller was Gu Lanshan, she quickly stopped and picked up the call. "Aunt, I was bullied by Lin Che again just now. In order to provoke me, he even called his friends over." "Okay, didn't I tell you to be patient? We'll deal with the rest in secret." "I've been patient, but Lin Che is getting more and more out of hand," Mo Huiling said. Gu Lanshan said, "Okay, in a few days. Do you know what day it is?" "What day?" "It's old Master Gu's birthday. My father's birthday." "Oh, it was Gu Xinda's birthday," Mo Huiling said, "but old Master has never liked me." "How can he not like you? You're pregnant with the Gu family's child. In the past, he didn't like you because he thought you couldn't bear the Gu family's child. Now that you're pregnant, how can he not like you? But what does Aunt mean? Does Aunt want me to attend the birthday party?" Mo Huiling's eyes lit up. If she could attend Gu Xinda's birthday party, that was a place that many big shots couldn't even get in. In the past, because Gu Xinda didn't like her, she couldn't even think about attending. She hadn't even seen Gu Xinda's face a few times, let alone attended. However, she still wanted to go and see for herself. Gu Lanshan said with a smile, I don't just want you to attend. I want to tell you something that my father has always wanted, but never got. When you give him this birthday present, I'm sure he'll be happier. Really? Aunt, thank you so much for helping me. Okay, you're already thanking me for giving birth to the Gu family's flesh and blood. Gu Lanshan couldn't be bothered to listen to her and said a few perfunctory words. She had asked Mo Huiling to give it to Mu Wanqing to embarrass her. She said with a smile, not only that this time, Lin Che will definitely give my father a present that he hates the most. When that time comes, it'll be strange if that eccentric old master doesn't chase him out. What is that? How can you be so sure that Lin Che will give it to him? You'll know when the time comes. Anyway, this time, you'll definitely make everyone envious. You'll also be able to watch a good show and see how Lin Che will be chased out. Mo Huiling was filled with yearning as she listened. Even the anger she had today was thrown to the back of her mind. The next day, when Lin Che went to the office, he still felt a little nauseous. Yu Minmin saw that she didn't look well, so she closed the door and asked, What's wrong? Did President Gu use too much strength last night? Scram, of course not. Lin Che glared at her and said, I'm just a little nauseous. Yu Minmin cried out, Wow, you're not pregnant, are you? How is that possible? I just had my period a while ago, and I'm already vomiting before it's even time. Am I pregnant with a human? Yu Minmin said, You don't understand. She smiled and said, One look, and I can tell that you're too young. I've never seen it before. People say that when you're pregnant, you'll have morning sickness, but it's not intense. It's because the body's hormones suddenly change at this time, so you'll vomit a little. When your condition stabilizes, you won't vomit anymore. Wait 3 or 4 months before you start vomiting again. Scram. I'm not that stupid. The last time, she had delayed it for a few days, so she had hurriedly bought a pregnancy test kit to try. In the end, she had made a mistake, which had already made her feel very embarrassed. This time, she wouldn't be so stupid as to buy a pregnancy test kit. Moreover, she wasn't really in a hurry to have a child. As she thought about it, her face turned slightly red. Looking up, she hurriedly changed the topic. All right, didn't you say that you're going to choose a few trainees to sign a contract with today? Yu Minmin nodded. Yeah, I've been to a few colleges and universities a few times. I'll choose a few trainees and groom them first. Whether they can debut depends on their luck and fill up our studio. I hope that our studio will prosper and nurture more big stars. Chapter 616. There were 4 major drama academies in Country C. There were many other smaller academies, but these 4 were the most famous. 2 of them were in B City, and the other 2 were in other cities. Lin Che and Yu Minmin went to one of them first. Lin Che had also studied here before. Back then, she also graduated from here, so she was very familiar with this place. However, the last time she came here, it was Qin Wanwan who participated in the training with her. This time, she opened her own studio and came here to select trainees. Actually, there was no such thing as trainees in China at the beginning, but they gradually learned about it. It wasn't as cruel as Korea. They just signed a contract and slowly groomed them from the start. Many people crowded around them when they found out that Lin Che and Yu Minmin were here. Although Lin Che's studio had just opened and there weren't any other celebrities besides Lin Che, everyone knew Lin Che's ability. They had witnessed Yu Minmin's ability to help Lin Che win in the previous battle to leave the company. Being groomed by Yu Minmin, especially since she was the president's wife, made everyone very confident. Especially since Lin Che was a big star now. Being groomed by a big star, they felt that their chances were greater. It was much better than those small cultural companies that came to look for people. From the moment they entered, they saw many people crowding around. Lin Che and Yu Minmin were a little dazzled. Lin Che said, "They're so enthusiastic." Of course, there are too many unreliable management companies nowadays. They sign people first and leave them alone or continue to sell them to the next company. It's really messy. Our studio has you as our living signboard. They know that you're the one choosing them, and they know that they're reliable first. Of course, they rushed here. Lin Che looked at these people and felt that they didn't stand out. They walked in and met the director first. When they shook hands, the director said, "I don't really know about signing contracts and debuting. Come in and take a look. This is our school's main entrance." There were many students, and the director specially pointed out a few outstanding students who had already shown their talents. Lin Che said that since they were recommended by the director, they should take a look. The director was already prepared and let a few students in. The students were dressed very well. Although they were still students, they had participated in auditions and performances, so they had learned to dress up early on. All of them looked quite well dressed. When they saw Lin Che and Yu Minmin, they could tell that they wanted to perform better. Their eyes were full of vigor, which made people feel good. Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che, but Lin Che couldn't tell anything. He really didn't think that there were many people who looked good at first glance. Lin Che said, "What do you think?" Yu Minmin said, "It's all right." Lin Che said, "Then why don't we go out and take a look ourselves?" She got up and said to the director, "We'll keep the information for now. We'll go back and discuss it before contacting everyone. We'll also go out and see if we can meet anyone suitable." "Oh, okay. Take your time. These are the passes to some of our classrooms. Take them, and you can go anywhere you want." "All right, thank you, Dean." No, I just want to work with you and prosper together." "Wasn't that how you were chosen by Miss You before?" "Ah, yes, Dean." Lin Che wasn't an outstanding student in the school in the past, so the dean wouldn't actually recognize her. However, there were so many people in the school, and not every outstanding student would eventually become famous. Lin Che and Yu Minmin walked on the road, looking at the information they had just received. "I think you look okay, but you don't stand out easily. You don't look like a star." Lin Che said, "Then when you look at me, do you think I have the aura of a star?" "Of course. When you look at me from afar, you're the kind that can be seen at a glance. Just now, you just took a glance and felt that they were very ordinary. Aura is something you're born with. You can't train it even if you want to. It comes from the heart, and it's not something you can get easily. Is that so? You saw me from afar and took a fancy to me. I thought you saw me at random back then." Yu Minmin said, "How could that be? It's not like I'm buying cabbages. Why would I sign you at random? It's just that you're very recognizable from the start. I can tell that you're different from others just by looking at you. It's easy for people to recognize you on TV, so I signed you. But after everyone enters the company, other than the company's nurturing, they also have to work hard on their own. They have to find good shows, audition for good roles, and expand their connections in order to continue developing." Annoying. "Don't worry. Every red star starts off like you. It's not just a single case. Almost all of them are like this." Lin Che thought about it. "That's right. Which main character didn't start off with a few mediocre supporting roles before slowly rising to fame?" Lin Che and Yu Minmin continued walking. The people on the side of the road were still looking at them. There were many who wanted to come over, but didn't dare to. In the end, someone came over to greet them. She said to Yu Minmin, "Hello, Sister Yu." "Hello, Sister Che." Yu Minmin smiled and said, "Hello, what's your name?" Then, she slowly left her name and contact information. The young lady smiled contentedly and left. Lin Che said, "Is this okay?" Yu Minmin said, "You dare to take the initiative. Maybe you'll have the same drive when you meet a director in the future. If you can find your own way, it'll save you a lot of money. In the industry, it's important to have good judgment." Then, Lin Che also saw that there was a student who listened attentively in class. He also asked for her contact information because her side profile was very beautiful. It looked like she had the halo of a main character that Yu Minmin mentioned. Of course, when it came to boys, it would be easier to sell the sunny, fresh meat type. However, it wasn't easy to become famous. There were also some who were especially good at acting and had a more unique image. Lin Che also kept them. It wasn't a bad idea to take the acting or other routes. After watching for a whole day, the two of them returned home with a full load. When they reached home, Gu Jingza was there. He came out and said to Lin Che, "Grandpa's birthday banquet is in a few days. We'll go back together." "All right. I remember it was around this time last year. Should I give him something?" "No need. I've already asked someone to buy a gift. You could just go back with me." Lin Che wanted to say, "All right then." but she felt that Gu Xianda had always liked her and treated her very well. If she didn't give him something, she would feel sorry for him. But since Gu Jingzi said so, she didn't think of going out of her way to give him something. She just wanted to see if there was anything that could represent his sincerity. It was a pity that she didn't have much contact with Gu Xianda. She really didn't know what he lacked. Chapter 617. When Lin Che was lying in bed at night, he asked Gu Jingzi, "Do you think there's anything Grandpa likes? Anything he likes?" Gu Jingzi was reading when he turned to look at Lin Che. Lin Che nodded vigorously and said, "Yes. Are you thinking of giving Grandpa a present?" "Yeah. Anyway, if I can think of something, I'll give it to him. Grandpa is so nice to me. I have to show him something." "It's good that you have the intention. He doesn't lack anything." "I know he doesn't lack anything. Just tell me what he likes." "He likes antiques, calligraphy, and paintings," Gu Jingzi said. Lin Che immediately said dejectedly, "Well, I knew I shouldn't have asked. It's so hard to get this thing. I don't know what kind Grandpa likes, and I don't know much about these things. If I choose it, there's a high chance that I'll be cheated." "All right, don't think about it. It's been so long since Grandpa's birthday, and he's received all the presents. He doesn't care about them anymore." Lin Che thought so too, but he still wanted to express his own feelings. There was no point lying there, so he went to sleep. The next day, the crew held a banquet for Lin Che. Although it was called a banquet, it was just a gathering for everyone to drink, eat, and bid farewell to Lin Che. The Witchcraft's notes had yet to be released, but it was already popular before it was even aired. After the trailer was posted online, everyone felt that it was very good. However, in order to be a little secretive, there were only a few scenes of Lin Che and the main cast. Many netizens were starting to look forward to what the Witchcraft's notes would be like once it was released. They were looking forward to seeing if Lin Che's appearance would match the original work. The director called Lin Che in advance to congratulate her. She had already won everyone's favor before she was released. Lin Che said to the director, "I'm just afraid that they might think it's good after watching the clips, but they might be disappointed in me after watching the whole show." The director said, "Why? Don't you have confidence in me?" Lin Che said, "I have confidence in you. I'm sure many people will watch your show. I'm just afraid that I'll become your rat shit." "How could that be? Your acting skills are definitely the best among this generation of celebrities." "Ah, thank you for your compliment. By the way, we're wrapping things up tonight. If there's anyone you want to invite, you can invite them as well." "Okay, then I'll invite a few friends to join in the fun." Okay. She felt that the director really had a good impression of her, which was why he was so friendly to her. They even called each other as if they were ordinary friends. Yu Minmin had said that she didn't know how to expand her network. Now that she was familiar with the director, she felt a sense of accomplishment. Seeing that the director had left, Lin Che first told Shin Yuran to attend her wrapping-up party. He then told Yu Minmin that she could bring a few friends to join in the fun, and that she could just call a few staff members from the studio. At this moment, Gu Jingyu, who hadn't contacted her for a long time and was said to have been secretly filming in Hollywood, suddenly sent her a message. He asked her on WeChat, "I'm back in the country." Lin Che said in surprise, "Wow, go back to China? Did you really go to Hollywood to develop your career?" About that, the crew signed a confidentiality agreement." His answer was no different from admitting it. "No wonder you haven't appeared in a long time." "So it's true. So you're back in China now?" "Yes, temporarily. It's a pity that I can't pick you up now. My crew is holding a farewell party for me to celebrate my completion." "Ah, you're done. I should congratulate you. But shouldn't you invite me to a banquet?" "Ah, you're here?" "Yeah. Why? Am I not welcome?" No. "Why would I? But why did you suddenly come?" "I didn't have time to prepare." "Io, it seems like you don't miss me at all. I've been away for so long, and I came back to see you." "And you're saying that you don't want me to go?" No. Why would I mean that? Come over. I'm at..." She said the name of the restaurant, and Gu Jingyu hung up. When Lin Che arrived at the restaurant, Shin Yuran and Yu Minmin were already there. Shin Yuran saw the male lead when she entered. Because he had been popular recently, Shin Yuran immediately said excitedly, Wow. He's so handsome." "Lin Che, quick, Take me to take a picture with him later. Lin Che said, okay. I'll ask him to take a picture with me later. After a while, she saw another one. She continued to shout, wow, that one is handsome too. Okay. Let's take a picture together. Wow, Lin Che, you're so lucky to be working with so many male fresh meats. What's so lucky about it? I'm just taking a look. I can't take all of them. Well, that's also a problem, Xin Yuran said. Moreover, your character is really inserted into the story. The readers all think that the two of them should be gay, so you should have received your bento box earlier. Get lost. Although Xin Yuran was telling the truth. Actually, when Lin Che read this novel, he also felt that there shouldn't be a female lead in this novel. But her character was actually quite popular, okay? Just then, Gu Jingyu called and said that he was already outside. Lin Che hurriedly said, wait, I'm going out to pick someone up. Yu Minmin said, you called someone else? Yeah, one of them caught up, Lin Che said as he rushed out. As expected, he saw Gu Jingyu as flirtatious as ever. He got out of the car and looked very suave. When he saw Lin Che, he waved and said, hey, over here. Lin Che walked over and saw him walking quickly towards him. He sized him up and felt that he had really lost some weight. It seemed that filming in Hollywood was very hard. Gu Jingyu sized Lin Che up first. Really, it seems that you really don't miss me at all. You didn't lose any weight, and you even gained some weight. Lin Che said, how can that be? What does missing you have to do with being fat or thin? But you really did lose weight. Of course, I missed you. I don't look so heartless. Go. Don't mess around. The two of them walked towards the restaurant together. Gu Jingyu smiled and said, but now that you've finished filming, there are people celebrating for you. Tiske. As expected, now that you've left me, you've become a pillar of the production team. I feel like I'm going to be abandoned. Indeed, a normal person wouldn't have a party after finishing filming. But if it was a big shot, they would indeed send him off and have a party after finishing filming to show that they valued him. This was also the first time that Lin Che had a party after finishing filming. This also meant that she was indeed a big shot now, right? Chapter 618. Gu Jingyu followed Lin Che inside. When the crew saw Lin Che coming in with someone behind him, they were all stunned and looked over in confusion. When they saw that it was Gu Jingyu who came in with him, they were all shocked. Gu Jingyu hadn't appeared for a long time. Everyone knew that he had gone abroad to film, but he had never admitted to it or responded to it. Now, he had suddenly appeared for the first time in China, and he had actually come to the dinner with Lin Che? What the hell was going on? Xin Yuran had originally followed Yu Minmin to get some photos of the male lead. But when he looked up, he saw Gu Jingyu. He stood next to Lin Che handsomely, with a smile on his face, and looked around. That pair of glass-like eyes carried the brilliance of the stars. Anyone who looked at it would be shocked. Xin Yuran called out, Minmin, Gu Jingyu. Yeah, Yu Minmin said. Xin Yuran quickly pulled Yu Minmin out and muttered to him. No wonder Lin Che didn't feel anything when he worked with so many handsome guys. Actually, Lin Che has seen enough of them. What? Sigh, no matter how handsome those fresh meats are, they are all useless in front of Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu looks like a superstar, and he shines brightly when he comes out. Lin Che is always surrounded by Gu Jingyu and Gu Jingze, so why would he be interested in those fresh meats? That's right. Everyone knows that Lin Che and Gu Jingyu were involved in a scandal before. That's why they didn't bother to spread the rumor about Lin Che and those little fresh meats. Everyone thinks that since they've been involved in a scandal with Gu Jingyu, there's no need for them to be involved in another scandal. Okay, Yu Minmin looked at Gu Jingyu and said, Senior Jingyu is here. Xin Yuran was also a playboy. He grabbed Lin Che's hand and winked, trying to get Lin Che to take a photo of them. Lin Che glared at the good-for-nothing Xin Yuran and said, let's take a photo first. Gu Jingyu didn't care. A few of them stood at the door and started taking photos. Xin Yuran looked at the photos with a satisfied look on his face. The rest of the crew came over to greet them. Gu Jingyu smiled and politely said something to everyone. Everyone knew that Gu Jingyu couldn't be bothered with people. He probably only smiled because of Lin Che. Some of the small-time actors didn't even dare to come over. They could only watch from afar. Lin Che followed Gu Jingyu inside and sat down. Gu Jingyu said, I think the trailer for your TV series is pretty good. But now that you've finished filming, do you have any plans for your next series? Lin Che said, I don't have any plans yet. Let's take a break first. I just want to finish my studio now. All right. Lin Che remembered Gu Xianda's birthday party. He looked at Gu Jingyu and said, Oh yeah, are you actually here to attend the Gu family's birthday party? Birthday banquet? Gu Jingyu narrowed his eyes. Lin Che said in surprise, What? Don't you know? Grandpa's birthday banquet is in a few days. As expected, Gu Jingyu's expression changed. She said directly, I'm not going to that old man's banquet. Lin Che said, What's wrong? Is there some misunderstanding between you and Grandpa? That's not a misunderstanding, Gu Jingyu said directly. You can ask him directly. You don't have to ask me. Lin Che said, All right, I don't know much about what happened between the two of you, but I just want to say that no matter what kind of hatred it is, many years have passed. Children grow up and their way of thinking changes. Adults mature and their way of thinking changes as well. Which one of us wasn't childish and naive when we were young? But the elders all forgave us in the end. Now why don't we give them a chance and try to forgive them? Enough. Don't say any more. Gu Jingyu's expression suddenly changed. Lin Che said, all right. I won't say any more. I don't know the details. You know better than me, and you're smarter than me. What I'm thinking now, you must have thought of it a long time ago. I just want to say that the relationship between family members isn't a game. Don't let yourself regret it for the rest of your life because of a little problem of pride. If one day, when Grandpa passes away, you still haven't reconciled with him or even tried to reconcile with him, then wouldn't you feel regret? Gu Jingyu stopped talking and stood up immediately. Everyone was still looking at him in a daze. Gu Jingyu didn't look at anyone. He kept a straight face and walked out without saying a word. Lin Che hurriedly stood up too. Gu Jingyu, she called out as she stood there. Gu Jingyu walked out without looking back. Lin Che called out again. Gu Jingyu, all right. Go ahead. But I think what I said was right. Gu Jingyu didn't know if he heard it, but he opened the door and walked out. Everyone looked at this scene in surprise. Did they hear wrongly just now? Lin Che was really bold. He actually dared to call Gu Jingyu by his full name. And it sounded like he was quarreling with Gu Jingyu. Who in the world would dare to speak to Gu Jingyu in such a willful manner? Yu Minmin looked at Lin Che and hurriedly walked over. What's wrong? Lin Che came back to her senses and shook her head. Nothing. I just gave him some advice. She realized that she was a little too impulsive just now. She didn't notice that there were so many people here. Now that she had finished speaking, she realized that everyone was staring at her curiously with different expressions. Lin Che hurriedly said, Everyone, eat and drink well. We were just talking about some private matters just now. It's nothing. All right, Lin Che and Gu Jingyu still had private matters, that was true. Since they were friends in private, it was normal for friends to have some private matters. But they were still very surprised. They had never seen anyone in the circle who dared to speak to Gu Jingyu like that. The next day, Lin Che returned to the Gu family to help prepare for the birthday banquet. Gu Jingza was busy and didn't come back with them. Lin Che and Mu Wanqing looked at the invitation and name list together. Lin Che was still thinking about Gu Jingyu. He didn't think much of it elsewhere, but when he returned to the Gu family, he couldn't help but ask about it. Mu Wanqing was a little puzzled by his absent-minded look. She looked at Lin Che and asked, What's wrong, little Che? Are you thinking about Jingza? He looks like he doesn't want to talk to me. Jingza is too busy. He didn't even come back today. Lin Che said, No, Mom. I want to ask Gu Jingyu why he doesn't want to come back. Does he not like Grandpa? Mu Wanqing froze for a moment and looked at Lin Che. After a while, she sighed regretfully and said, Jingyu has always been very willful. It's also because the family spoiled him too much when he was young. He held a grudge only once when we didn't let him go. Sigh, I can understand. He was hurt that time because he knew that everything was led by his grandfather. He immediately quarreled with him and said that he would never come back to see him in this lifetime. He would never recognize him as his grandfather again. Then, everything was really led by Grandpa. That's right. You can't see your grandfather's power now. Just like Jingza now. This is the responsibility of the head of the family. Your grandfather actually didn't want it. Chapter 619. Mu Wanqing looked at Lin Che. Your grandfather knows that his grandson is just like him. He's stubborn, and his grandson is just as stubborn. Lin Che sighed. It wasn't just for his grandfather. She was worried that Gu Jingyu would be the one to regret it in the end. After all, she had experienced this before. After her mother passed away, she realized that she hadn't properly asked her mother what she had been through. This made her feel a little regretful. Mu Wanqing was about to go to the front to check out the other things at the banquet, while Lin Che wandered around. The Gu residence looked like a manor. She found a place to sit down, and a servant came over to ask if she wanted something to drink. She asked for a glass of fruit juice. After taking a few sips, she heard someone call her name from behind. Gu Lanshan was at the back. She looked at Lin Che and asked, "Why are you sitting here by yourself?" Lin Che still remembered that Gu Lanshan was on Mo Huiling's side when she said she was pregnant. Hence, Lin Che didn't like her at all when he saw her now. He only looked at Gu Lanshan. She said, "Aunt." Gu Lanshan said, "Do you mind if I sit down?" "Of course not, Aunt." Lin Che wasn't that extreme. Gu Lanshan said, "What's wrong? You don't look so good. Are you feeling unwell?" Lin Che smiled. "It's nothing. But, Aunt, Jingyu doesn't come back every year. Has grandfather never said anything about him? Has he ever asked anyone to look for him?" Gu Lanshan smiled and looked at Lin Che. "Yes, old master is such a stubborn person. Once he has made up his mind, it's useless for you to say anything. Forget it, you don't have to get involved in this. However, this matter has always been on your mother-in-law's mind. As long as Jingyu doesn't come back, your mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, won't be able to rest easy." Gu Lanshan looked at her and sighed heavily. "All right, I'll be leaving first." Lin Che smiled. "Okay, take care, Aunt." Gu Lanshan looked in Lin Che's direction and harumphed. She didn't want to make a call. "She doesn't need to send the gift I prepared for Lin Che." Mo Huiling asked in surprise. "What? Why?" Gu Lanshan said, "I wanted to talk to her about the gift, but I realized that she was asking for trouble. I told her that Grandpa is very stubborn, but Gu Jingyu is her mother-in-law and Mu Wanqing's biggest concern. In order to please her mother-in-law, she might overestimate herself and want to solve this matter. If that's the case, what we have to do. If she really wants to help her mother-in-law, she'll just wait for old master to kick her out in anger." Mo Huiling said, "What if she's just mentioning it and doesn't really intend to interfere?" Looking at her, "I really want to teach her a lesson. I've seen too many little girls like her. She's just been pampered for a few days and she thinks she can do anything. She'll know soon enough." Lin Che thought about it all the way. At night, she finally decided that she would give Grandpa Gu a present. When Gu Jingzi came back, Lin Che told him. Gu Jingzi smiled and said, "You really don't want to give up." Lin Che said, "Don't say that. I just want to try." Gu Jingzi looked at her quietly for a while and finally said, "Okay, let's go. I'll take you somewhere." "Where are we going?" "Jingyu's old room." Gu Jingzi did take Lin Che to Gu Jingyu's room in the past. Although it had been a long time since anyone lived here and the decorations were a little old, it was still spotless. It seemed that people often cleaned it up. Lin Che was surprised to see so many of Gu Jingyu's belongings. She looked up at Gu Jingzi. "Aren't you afraid that I'll cause you trouble?" "Your little trouble." He tapped her forehead. "It's nothing to me. Don't worry." Lin Che nodded. "Okay, I'll get bolder and bolder in the future. I wonder if I'll poke a hole in you. I would like to know if there are any troubles in Country C that I can't solve." Lin Che suddenly felt even more admiration. He raised his head and looked at Gu Jingzi. Gu Xinda didn't invite many people to his banquet. It was just a few relatives and friends. Mo Huiling got out of the car outside the Gu mansion and looked for Gu Lanshan. From afar, two guards of the Gu clan approached, saying that they wanted to bring Mo Huiling in. "Miss Mo, Elder Miss asked us to bring you in." The lady was Gu Lanshan. Hearing this, Mo Huiling hurriedly followed the guards and entered the room. After entering, the guard brought her to the inner room. It was a side hall, and there were too many people around. Gulanshan arranged for her to rest here for now. The guard said, Elder Miss said that you're not feeling well, and it's better for you to rest here. There are too many people there, and it'll be bad if you bump into them. Mo Huiling was looking outside and watching the people coming and going. She was a little excited because it was her first time attending Gu Xinda's birthday banquet. She thought to herself, I've said it before. One day I'll walk in here openly. Today she had finally walked in. At the thought of this, she hurriedly posted a message on her WeChat moments. The address and the place where her name was displayed could be seen by anyone with a discerning eye. She directly said that she was here to attend the Gu family's birthday banquet. There were so many people, and it was too crowded. Someone said enviously, No way, you're attending the Gu Mansion's birthday banquet. You've really gotten back together with Gu Jingza? The Gu Mansion's birthday banquet is so grand. Why didn't you tell us in advance that you're going to attend it? Huiling, where are you? Let's go in together. Did you go in with Gu Jingza? Can you introduce me to Gu Jingza? It's not easy for me to come here, so I just want to take a picture with him. Gu Jingza smiled and said, I'm outside to attend the banquet. Mo Huiling looked at them proudly. Then she heard someone coming in with a birthday gift. Mo Huiling looked at the huge object and walked over. She touched the edge of the object. She was really looking forward to seeing Lin Che's expression. Outside, the preparations for the birthday banquet were almost done. There were already a lot of people. Lin Che and Gu Jingza sat in the inner seats. Opposite them were Gu Jingming and Yu Minmin, who had just arrived. It was Yu Minmin's first time attending a banquet, and he was sitting in such an important seat. He couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He raised his head and looked at Gu Jingming from time to time. Lin Che looked at the people coming and going and noticed that they were all looking in their direction. As this was a family banquet, the tables were arranged in a circular pattern. Gu Jingza and Gu Jingming were naturally seated at the head of the table. Gu Lanshan was also seated there. At this moment, someone finally said that the old master was here. Everyone stood up and prepared to welcome the birthday boy. Chapter 620. Gu Xinda cupped his hands and said to the people in the room, Okay. I'm so old, but I have to trouble everyone to move again. I'm really sorry. Everyone congratulated him and said, Old Master Gu, happy birthday. Old Master Gu, this day has come every year. Okay. Everyone sit down. Gu Xinda naturally came to the main table. He looked around and smiled. Thank you for your hard work these few days. Grandfather, happy birthday, Gu Jingza said together with the juniors. Gu Xinda looked very happy. He sat down. Although he always said that he liked peace and quiet, he still felt a sense of achievement when he saw such a big family gathering together. At this moment, some relatives who couldn't sit at the main table came to pay their respects to Gu Xinda. She wasn't like Gu Jingza, who could see Gu Xinda whenever she wanted. Lin Che also felt that she wanted to see Gu Xinda. Because she was with Gu Jingza, it wasn't difficult for her to see him every time she came to the Gu family. However, to others, he was someone they couldn't see even if they wanted to. Some people only had the chance to see him once a year, so they came to greet him, hoping that Gu Xinda would remember them so that the branches of the Gu family could benefit from it. Therefore, they worked very hard and were very careful, afraid that Gu Xinda would be unhappy. And the things they sent up were very precious and grand. Gu Xinda looked at the gifts and nodded with a smile. He didn't care what the gifts were as long as they were kind intentions. Gu Jingza also stood up and said, Grandfather, happy birthday. This is my gift. He asked a servant to bring a gift box. Without opening it, he gave it to Gu Xinda directly. Gu Xinda opened it and looked at it. He said with a smile, Not bad. It must have been difficult to find it. Gu Jingza said, It's just a token of my appreciation. The people sitting below looked at Gu Jingza's gift and couldn't help but guess what it was. Gu Jingza's gift can't be cheap, someone at the table below said. The person next to him laughed and said, Come on, it doesn't matter what Gu Jingza's gift is. Don't you see where he is sitting? What do you mean by sitting there? He's sitting at the main table, okay? The people there are all his family members. He's old Master Gu's grandson. What can he give? When everyone heard this, they fell silent. They looked at the people sitting there. Indeed, they were all from the same family. The person was right. They were from the same family. It didn't matter what they gave them. Gu Jingming, who was at the main seat, quickly brought something over. Gu Xinda smiled and said, "This gift doesn't matter. Do you know what's the best gift for me now? I want you to give me a great-grandchild as soon as possible. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. You two brothers and you too, Jing Yin, work hard for me." The few of them fell silent. At this moment, Gu Lanshan suddenly stood up. She smiled and walked over to Gu Xinda. She lowered her head and whispered to Gu Xinda. Lin Che looked in that direction and suddenly felt his body tense up, as if something was wrong. It was the same for Mu Wanqing. She felt uncomfortable looking over there. Hearing Gu Lanshan's words, Gu Xinda looked up and asked, "Really?" Gu Lanshan only nodded with a smile. Gu Xinda thought for a moment, looked up and said, "Okay." Asked her to come in. Gu Lanshan smiled as she raised her hand and gestured to the person in front of her. The people below didn't know what was going on. Suddenly, they saw the door open. A young woman with a slightly protruding belly walked in with her chest puffed out. It was Mo Huiling. Mo Huiling walked in gracefully. She was well-dressed and looked elegant. Her clothes and makeup showed the elegance of a young lady from a wealthy family. The people below couldn't remember who she was. At this moment, someone suddenly reacted and remembered who she was. "Is this Miss Mo? Oh, no wonder she looks familiar. She used to be with Gu Jingza for so many years. I've seen her a few times. I didn't expect her to be so beautiful now." She looked different from Lin Che. Because of their different backgrounds, she had a different aura. Although Lin Che was beautiful because of her status as an artist, people felt that she was showing her face in public. She was completely different from a young lady from a wealthy family who stayed at home. Although Mo Huiling wasn't as beautiful as Lin Che, she didn't look eye-catching, which made people feel that she was a young lady from a wealthy family. Lin Che, on the other hand, was too beautiful and eye-catching. When everyone saw Mo Huiling walk in with her belly puffed out, they immediately remembered that Mo Huiling had previously announced that she was pregnant with Gu Jing's child. Now, she had come to the Gu family's old mansion to meet Gu Xinda. Did that mean that the things she had said before were true? Everyone couldn't help but look at the people at the main table. Mo Huiling could feel everyone's eyes on her. It had been a long time since she had felt this way. It made her eyes ache, and Gu Xinda was there. She could see that Lin Che was sitting at the same table as the old man. She was actually sitting there. Yes, since she was with Gu Jingza as Gu Jingza's wife, the young madam of the Gu family, she would naturally be sitting there. That position was supposed to be hers. The position that people looked up to, the position that people were jealous of, was supposed to be hers. But now it was Lin Che's. Mo Huiling clenched her fists. Fortunately, at this moment, she heard the people around her talking about her. Miss Mo is still the young lady of a wealthy family after all. Yes, I feel that Miss Mo is pregnant with Gu Jing's child, and she was called here. Lin Che's position is in danger. That's right. No matter how good-looking Lin Che is, he is still an actor. Looks like Miss Mo is more likable. Of course. After all, she brought her child here. Which old man doesn't like children? Mo Huiling raised her head confidently when she heard these comments. They were right. Old Master Gu definitely liked children. Soon, they reached the inside. Gu Jingza stood up and looked at Gu Lanshan. "Elder Aunt, what's going on?" Lin Che hurriedly stood up and held Gu Jing's arm. Gu Lanshan said, "What's wrong? I just told your grandfather that Miss Mo is waiting outside to celebrate your grandfather's birthday. What's wrong? Can't she give you something to express her gratitude?" At this moment, Gu Xinda raised his hand slightly. "Jingza, that's enough. It's not a big deal." Gu Jingza narrowed his eyes and looked in front of him. Mo Huiling stood there looking pitiful. Many people were staring at the front. Although they didn't dare to look at her directly, they still peeked curiously. Chapter 6:21. Gu Jingza looked at Gu Xinda. "Grandfather, all right, I know what I'm doing. Sit down." Gu Jingza turned back to look at Mo Huiling. His gloomy face made people feel cold, but he still sat down. Lin Che said to himself, "Forget it, Gu Jingza. Today is grandfather's birthday. Gu Jingze nodded. There are so many people here. I have to respect grandfather. Although Lin Che was unhappy, he still said so. Gu Jingze remained silent. After hearing Lin Che's words, he silently nodded his head. Everyone's attention was focused on Mo Huiling. Mo Huiling glanced at Lin Che beside her and said to Gu Xinda, "Grandpa Gu, it's been a long time since I've come to see you because of my body's inconvenience. I heard that it's your birthday today, so I asked Annie to help me come and celebrate your birthday. This is my gift to you. I hope you like it. I'm surprised that you still remember it. It's not a big deal." Gu Xinda stood up, and to everyone's surprise, he came down to welcome Mo Huiling. He looked down at Mo Huiling's stomach and nodded. "Take care of yourself. That's more important than anything else." Mo Huiling felt her grandfather's hand patting her shoulder. She was so touched that she wanted to cry. Especially at that moment, she felt the people around her looking at her in surprise. Everyone looked at Mo Huiling, the sounds of discussion lingering in their ears. The one in her stomach is already the best gift. She'll be amazing if old Master Gu thinks so highly of her. This Miss Mo is really unexpected, but she has really stolen the limelight today. All right, save it. How can your gift compare to the one in her stomach? No one can steal the limelight from her today. Everyone's attention was focused on Mo Huiling. There were some people who remembered Lin Che, but where's Lin Che? Does he still dare to show up? I think old Master Gu doesn't have time for him today. He used to like Lin Che and boasted about him. I think he's just SOSO. That's right. He used to think highly of Lin Che. But from what I see, rumors can't be trusted. Then, Mo Huiling said to old Master Gu, "Grandpa, I prepared a gift to celebrate your birthday." "Oh, really? What is it?" Mo Huiling immediately asked someone to bring the things up. Everyone watched as the two of them carried a massive object over and placed it in front of them, making everyone feel quite curious about what was inside. Gu Xinda was stunned at first. Then he said, "This is..." Mo Huiling smiled and said, "This is a purple jade screen that I asked someone to find. I heard that Grandpa likes antiques, so I thought that Grandpa might like it." "Ah, the purple jade screen. It's that screen from the Ming and Qing dynasties. I heard that it was bought by a collector a few years ago, and there was no news of it after that. Many people said that it was sent overseas. Is it that screen worth tens of millions? It doesn't matter how much it costs. The key is that no one will sell it. This will only become more and more valuable in the future. Who would sell it? Moreover, there is only one of it. You can't find it anywhere else. It's definitely worth a lot." Gu Xinda looked at Mo Huiling abruptly before he walked over. He looked at the screen and reached out to touch it, looking very satisfied. "Yeah, I was looking for someone to find the screen. I didn't expect that you would find it for me first." Mo Huiling said, "Really? That's such a coincidence. I just asked someone to find it too." Good. Someone, find a seat for Miss Mo." The servants hurriedly went to move the chairs, and everyone became even more chaotic. The sounds of discussion came one after another. Mo Huiling's gift is really generous. Where did you find such a screen? That must be very expensive. Looks like old Master Gu is really satisfied. He even praised it. Yeah, it's not easy to get a compliment from old Master Gu. Everyone looked at Mo Huiling enviously. She had given a good gift today, and old Master Gu was so happy that he let her sit in the front, which made many people envious. Mu Wanqing's face darkened. She stared at Mo Huiling with dissatisfaction when she saw that Mo Huiling actually sat in the seat. Mo Huiling looked at Lin Che proudly. She had just heard someone say, "Miss Mo has overshadowed Lin Che this time." She came with a belly and a gift, but Lin Che didn't even give her a gift. What could she give him? It's all Gu Jing's preparation. Look at her now. Old Master Gu doesn't even look at Lin Che. He must have forgotten about her. It wasn't that Lin Che didn't hear these discussions. Even if she couldn't hear them clearly, she could still see their eyes and expressions. Mu Wanqing was furious. She looked at Lin Che, who was sitting there, and said to her, "I heard from Jingze that you prepared something for Grandpa. Take it out and show it to Grandpa." Lin Che suddenly realized that it was really difficult to take out her gift. She saw that everyone's gifts were all expensive jewelry and antiques, but hers was, however, seeing that everyone was looking at her. Lin Che had no choice but to stand up and say, "Grandpa, I made a gift for Grandpa." When Gu Xinda heard this, he turned around and said, "Really? You made it yourself? What is it?" Lin Che took out a relief painting. It was a relief painting made on paper. On it was a family portrait. The members of the Gu family were all in it. There was Gu Jingming, Gu Jingze, Lin Che, Yu Minmin, and Gu Jingyu. Gu Lanshan was watching from the side. When she saw Gu Jingyu, she immediately said, "Jingyu is here too. Little Che, you're really thoughtful. This family portrait is even more complete than the people at our table." The people watching from the side also felt like laughing when they saw this gift. This Lin Che was too shabby. He made a family portrait and gave it to her. What kind of gift was this? She thought it was child's play. Sure enough, Gu Xinda's expression changed suddenly. Gu Lanshan watched from the side, deliberately smiling at Lin Che. Lin Che said, "I just wanted to say that the family is often not complete, so I made a family portrait for Grandpa. I hope that when Grandpa sees the people in it, he sees us." However, Gu Lanshan raised her head and looked at Lin Che. "Xiao Che, don't you know that Jingyu quarreled with her family and hasn't been home for a few years? Your grandfather has also said that he won't allow Gu Jingyu to return to the house for the rest of her life. Now that you've sent a family portrait with Gu Jingyu in it, what's the meaning of this?" Everyone was stunned. No one had thought that there would be such a reason. They all looked at Lin Che worriedly. This time, Lin Che's bootlicking had failed. Was he going to kiss the horse's leg instead? However, at this moment, "Who are you talking about?" A lonely voice suddenly came from the door. Everyone turned around in surprise. They saw Gu Jingyu, who hadn't appeared in the Gu family for a long time, appear at the entrance of the Gu family's house. Chapter 622. Gu Lanshan turned around and saw Gu Jingyu, whom she hadn't seen for many years. She didn't know when he had appeared at the door. Mu Wanqing stood up immediately. Lin Che stood up as well. Gu Xinda stood there in a daze and moved slightly. Everyone watched as Gu Jingyu looked inside. The expression on his face was unreadable. After a moment of silence, he strode forward one step at a time. "Gu Jingyu. It's really Gu Jingyu. What is he doing today? Is he here to reconcile?" Everyone watched as Gu Jingyu walked all the way to his seat. Gu Xinda looked at him with narrowed eyes. Gu Jingyu paused and swept his gaze across the people at the table. Then he slowly fixed his gaze on Gu Xinda. "Happy birthday, grandfather." Gu Xinda's eyes moved slightly. Excitement could be seen on his old face. He stood up, walked around the table, and came to Gu Jingyu. He grabbed Gu Jingyu's hand and touched the back of Gu Jingyu's hand. After a long time, he said, "Jingyu, it's good that you're back. Grandfather is very happy. Grandfather is very happy for today's birthday." Everyone was even more surprised. However, no matter how bad he was still his grandson. He would still be soft-hearted no matter what. However, Gu Xinda had always been a man of his word and never left any leeway. It made people think that he would not give in easily this time. Perhaps it was because he was old and his way of thinking was different from the past. Gu Jingyu said, "Grandfather, this is a gift for you." Gu Xinda quickly took it and opened it. It was a small cigarette holder. It looked small and exquisite, but it was very beautiful. Gu Jingyu said, "I remember breaking one when I was young. Grandfather didn't say anything. This can be considered as returning it to you." "Yes, you were the naughtiest when you were young. You couldn't even count the number of things you broke." Yes. I will slowly make it up to you in the future." Okay. I will wait for you to make it up to me. Come in and sit." Gu Jingyu looked around and came to Lin Che's side. Everyone was surprised to see Gu Jingyu smile at Lin Che. Lin Che was still in shock. He hadn't expected that Gu Jingyu would actually come. After Gu Jingyu sat down, he smiled at Lin Che and said, "What's wrong? Are you stunned? Why are you here? You didn't say it?" I did say that. Yeah, I thought about it. Since a stupid person like you could figure it out, of course I can't lose to you. That's why I came. Gu Xinda saw that the two of them were talking to each other. He looked at them and asked, "You've known each other for a long time?" Gu Xinda didn't like the entertainment industry very much, so he had never seen any news about it. His family knew that he didn't like it, so they naturally wouldn't say anything. Gu Jingyu said, "Of course, grandfather. I'm good friends with second sister-in-law. Don't tell me you just found out?" Yes. I'm old. I can't keep up with the trends of you young people anymore. I came to see you. Jingyu, Xiaoche just gave Grandpa a family portrait, and you're already here. Gu Jingyu turned his head and looked at the family portrait. He was also filled with emotions. We'll take one ourselves in the future. Okay, when you're all free, we'll go to the back and take one later. Gu Xinda looked at Lin Che and patted the seat next to him with a smile. Jingyu, sit here. Xiaoche, sit next to Grandpa. The people below were stunned again. Gu Xinda looked at the table full of people with a smile, then looked at Gu Jingyu and Lin Che next to him. A rare kindness appeared on his face. Everyone present could feel that the old man was in a really good mood today. He talked to Lin Che, then to Gu Jingyu. They looked so warm that the others couldn't interrupt even if they wanted to. Gu Xinda just smiled and looked at his grandchildren. He looked at Gu Jingza and narrowed his eyes, as if to say, "Jingyu, you've indeed found a good wife." As smart as he was, how could he not know that Gu Jingyu had come back this time because Lin Che had secretly persuaded him? Mo Huiling was watching them from the side. She wanted to interrupt them for a while, but she couldn't. She could only watch Lin Che sitting next to Gu Xinda, talking and laughing all the way. Gu Jingyu was also very close to her. From time to time, he would chat with her for a while. It was as if Mo Huiling was just an outsider sitting at this table. Why did Gu Xinda like Lin Che so much? Moreover, it seemed that he liked Lin Che more and more. He was extremely satisfied with Lin Che. Gu Lanshan looked at them from the side. Mu Wanqing was touched. She looked at Lin Che and almost cried. Gu Lanshan gritted her teeth and said to Mo Huiling in a low voice, "You've been with Gu Jingza for so long, but you don't know anyone around him." Mo Huiling's heart felt like it had been hit hard. She wanted to know them too, but Gu Jingza didn't like to take her out, so she didn't know anyone. I know someone too. It's just that our relationship isn't too good," Mo Huiling said. Gu Lanshan said, "Why don't you learn from Lin Che? Look at how he fawns over people. You, on the other hand, are so eager to fawn over people. Jingyu and Jingming don't even pay attention to you. They treat you as if you don't exist." Mo Huiling felt so wrong that her tears were about to fall. I'm not as scheming as Lin Che. He's just a scheming bitch. What can I do?" Gu Lanshan only snorted coldly. She leaned over and stopped talking. She thought to herself that it wasn't without reason that Mo Huiling was defeated by a mere Lin Che. She couldn't even be compared to Lin Che. The people below also looked at this scene and suddenly became excited. It was really rare to see Gu Jingyu and Gu Xinda sitting together today. Such a scene was actually witnessed by them. They would be able to brag about it when they got back. Moreover, they looked at Lin Che enviously. She was a granddaughter-in-law, but she could sit beside Gu Xinda and chat cheerfully with him as if they were family. They suddenly felt that what Mo Huiling did just now was nothing. No matter how expensive the gift was, it was still something that could be bought. Lin Che had finally caught old Master Gu's fancy. Or, giving gifts also depended on the person. If someone you liked gave you a gift, no matter how cheap it was a sign of his sincerity. If someone you didn't like gave you a gift, no matter how expensive it was still something that could be bought. It wasn't a big deal. Didn't this mean that if Gu Xinda liked Lin Che, she didn't need to give him a gift to express her sincerity? She could still sit beside Gu Xinda. Previously, she thought that the rumors that Gu Xinda valued and liked Lin Che were fake. Now, it seemed that the person who said such things was the one who was slapped in the face. Chapter 6:23. He really valued Lin Che, and Lin Che was also extremely good at pleasing the old man. It seemed that even if Mo Huiling brought the child into the family, she would only be a mother because of the child. it would probably be difficult for her to do anything. Gu Xinda had a good meal. After eating, he went back to get someone to look for a photographer. He really wanted to take a family portrait. In the future, I'll put the family portrait that Xiaoqie gave me together with this. Isn't that good? Yes, father, you have great taste. Xiaoqie did this really well. Xiaoqie, you're really clever. Little Aunt saw that Lin Che was being pampered and quickly started to flatter him. Gu Lanshan couldn't be bothered. Seeing Mu Wanqing's smug look, she felt angry. However, she didn't dare to say that she wouldn't take the photo, so she could only follow. Naturally, there was no one else to take the family portrait. Mo Huiling sat there. Seeing that everyone had gotten up and walked out, and no one was paying attention to her, she stood up quickly, as if she wanted to ask someone what she should do. Was she going to just sit here? Hey, big aunt, little aunt, Jingza. However, no one paid attention to her. She could only watch as the group of people left the table, leaving her standing there alone, not knowing what to do. The other guests in the room were all looking at Mo Huiling, laughing and pointing at her. Mo Huiling didn't need to listen to know that they were definitely laughing at her. She secretly clenched her fists and thought angrily in her heart. Damn Lin Che, damn it. Why did Gu Jingyu come? Why was Gu Jingyu so close to her? He actually listened to her and came straight to the old mansion. If not for Gu Jingyu's arrival, everyone's eyes would have been attracted to Lin Che and Gu Jingyu, and she wouldn't have fallen into such a helpless situation. Outside, the whole family stood together to take a family portrait. Gu Xinda pulled Gu Jingyu. We still have your room at home. Come back when you're free. Gu Jingyu said, yes, I understand. I'll come back when I'm free, but I've been filming overseas recently. Don't always go abroad. It's not good for your health to fly for more than 10 hours. Yes, I know. You just need to take care of yourself. If you have no other choice, I'll get someone to book a plane for you tomorrow. It'll take the Gu family's route. Don't always fight with your second brother for the plane. It'll be easier to arrange your time if you have your own. I'm not used to grandfather being so generous all of a sudden. You little brat. Don't act like you've gotten a bargain. If you don't want it, I'll give it to little Che. Yes, why wouldn't I? Sister-in-law and second brother have a plane to take. Why are you giving all of them to their family? They have so many planes. Can they take all of them? Lin Che was speechless. She didn't dare to ask for a private jet. If people found out that she had a private jet, they would definitely hate her to death. Gu Xinda gestured for Gu Lanshan and the rest to go out and entertain the guests. He was tired and wouldn't be going out. He only looked at Lin Che and sighed. Little Che, I know it's not good to let Mo Huiling in, but there are so many people watching. Lin Che lowered his head. I know. No, you don't know. This kind of thing happens every day in this circle. Not every man is as righteous as Jingza. There are a lot of crooked men who have women and children outside. If I don't let Mo Huiling in, I don't know what they'll think. They might think that I'm slapping their faces. If I don't allow this to happen, it will make them unhappy. It's not a big deal if they're unhappy, but if they lose the trust of the people, it'll be hard for them to be the head of the family. Which family head would turn a blind eye to this kind of thing? Otherwise, some people are willing to do it, and the family knows it. It's not good for me to interfere with their family affairs. So, I can't be too harsh on Mo Huiling. Although Lin Che was naive, she knew that no one had to stand on her side. She knew that she was Gu Xinda's granddaughter-in-law. It was already very good for him to treat her this way. It was unrealistic to expect more understanding and care from him. Lin Che said, I know, grandfather. All right, you're a good girl. Little Che, grandfather will definitely promise you that when her child is born, we won't admit it, whether it's Jing's or not. We won't let her stay in the Gu family either. Lin Che smiled. I believe what Jingza said. The child won't be his. I think so too. Jingza won't do something he's not confident in. But the child hasn't been born yet. If we say this, she'll definitely distort the truth. We don't have any evidence, so we can't force her to abort the child or force her to do a paternity test. Otherwise, if something goes wrong with the child, she'll blame it on us. When the child is born, it'll be obvious that it's the Gu family's flesh and blood. Things like blood can't lie. It'll be much easier to do a paternity test after the child is born. When the evidence is conclusive, She won't be able to deny it even if she wants to. Yes, grandfather, I understand. Everyone couldn't help but feel a little jealous when they saw that Gu Xinda had asked Lin Che to stay in private to talk more. Gu Lanshan looked at Mu Wanqing and snorted. Looks like your daughter-in-law has some of your skills. Look at how good she is at making people happy. Mu Wanqing looked at Gu Lanshan. Father has his own ideas. It's impossible to deceive him. After all, Father has seen through many people and things over the years. So, if Father really likes someone, it's not something we can control. If you're not convinced, you can ask Father why he must be so good to little Che. There's no point in being jealous with me. You? Who's jealous with you? I'm jealous of Lin Che? Ha! Would I be jealous of a junior? Gu Lanshan left, and Mu Wanqing didn't bother with her anymore. When Lin Che came out, he found Gu Jingyu immediately. Senior Jingyu. She ran over and looked at Gu Jingyu. Senior Jingyu, I'm really happy that you could come today. Gu Jingyu looked at Lin Che. She tilted her head and gestured to Gu Jingza, who was behind her. It was second brother who found me first. What? Lin Che asked in surprise. Gu Jingza found you first? Why? Gu Jingyu said, second brother told me about the gift you prepared for grandfather. He also said that if I didn't come, grandfather might feel embarrassed and get angry at you. If I didn't come, he was worried that he would come to collect your corpse, so Gu Jingza had actually done this in secret. He had already planned everything. No wonder. When he first found out that she was going to give him this gift, he didn't object at all and even helped her. This old fox. Lin Che really felt that he had lost to Gu Jingza. Chapter 624. So this was how he strategized. No wonder he hadn't done anything today. Lin Che couldn't help but admire him. This was what a businessman should be. He did everything quietly, and in the end, he was the one in charge. Gu Jingyu looked at Lin Che. My second brother is willing to put in so much effort for you. And he even went to look for me. Lin Che, I think you're very lucky. Lucky? Yeah. You don't have to compare yourself with Mo Huiling. She can't compare to you because my second brother is on your side. He cares about you so much and does so much for you. This already shows how important you are to him. So, how can Mo Huiling compare to him? You don't have to worry at all. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingza, who was in the distance. He was still talking to Gu Jingming. As if he felt her gaze, he turned his head and met Lin Che's eyes. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. Lin Che said, Sigh, I'm just lucky. Nonsense. Gu Jingyu said, Do you think that being lucky has a negative connotation? A person is lucky because they have accumulated a lot of good fortune. You have accumulated so much good fortune because you are a good person. Not everyone is that lucky because not everyone is prepared to accept good fortune. Do you understand? Lin Che looked at Gu Jingyu with a smile and nodded his head forcefully. I understand, Senior Jingyu. Everyone was already very good to her, and she was already very satisfied. Lin Che smiled at Gu Jingyu. Seeing that Gu Jingza and Gu Jingming had finished talking, she skipped over. Gu Jingza walked towards Lin Che with steady steps. Lin Che smiled and skipped over. Gu Jingza, what's wrong? Lin Che looked up at him. He lowered his head and squinted his eyes as if he was slightly drunk. Lin Che just looked at him quietly and held his hand. She felt that she had already said too many words of thanks and there was no need to say more. She just held his hand and walked out with a smile. As they walked, she thought that Gu Jingza was really amazing. It was as if everything was in his hands, and the most important thing was that he did it so quietly. Lin Che wondered what other things Gu Jingza had done to silently protect her when she wasn't aware of it. Gu Lanshan greeted Gu Jingza with a smile when she saw him coming out with Lin Che. Jingza, are you leaving? That's right. If we don't leave, are we going to wait and see and continue to play different roles here? Gu Lanshan choked on his words. Gu Lanshan's face darkened. Jingza, is this how you talk to your elders? That's right. I believe that an elder should be someone who loves and cares for the younger generation. Otherwise, she wouldn't be fit to be an elder. That's why I don't think there's anything wrong with the way I speak to Annie. After all, in Annie's heart, she's even more childish and immature than a junior. You, Gu Lanshan pointed a trembling finger at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze pulled Lin Che along, ignoring Gu Lanshan, and walked straight out. Yu Minmin said goodbye to Lin Che and left with Gu Jingming. There were still a lot of guests outside. Yu Minmin followed Gu Jingming obediently and didn't say a word. When they passed by, Yu Minmin didn't say a word even though people kept staring at him. He just walked out directly. When they finally got into the car, the eyes that followed them like shadows finally disappeared. Yu Minmin heaved a sigh of relief and said to Gu Jingming, "Are all the people who came today relatives?" "Yes, most of them are," Gu Jingming said. Yu Minmin said, "All right, I think they're all very careful. They're just relatives from the side branches, so they rarely come to the old mansion." "I see," Yu Minmin said. "Even Gu Jingyu came today. Ah, I feel like I'm witnessing history. Do you think he'll really reconcile with his family?" Gu Jingming nodded. "Since he's back, it means he's reconciled. Previously, he just couldn't let go of his pride. Moreover, these people are always thinking that grandfather doesn't like Jingyu. In fact, grandfather likes Jingyu the most." "Really?" Yu Minmin tilted her head and looked at him. Gu Jingming said, "Old people always like the young. Moreover, Jingyu has always been a mischievous kid. Wherever he is, it's always lively. So, even if they broke up, how could it be like what people say? How could they not see each other? Some people even want to make an issue out of this. They forgot that Jingyu is a descendant of the Gu family. He's grandfather's biological grandson. No grandfather wouldn't want his own grandson. They're wrong." "All right, so you're saying that everything that happened today was just someone making an issue out of this?" "Yes, it should be my aunt. She's always been at odds with my mother." "Why would they be at odds?" Yu Minmin asked. "Because mother is the mistress of the Gu family. She can only listen to mother's arrangements." "All right, actually, in ordinary families, sisters-in-law and sisters-in-law don't get along very well," Gu Jingming said. "But you won't be at odds with Lin Che in the future, will you?" "Of course not," Yu Minmin said. "Why wouldn't we be at odds? You're sisters-in-law. At the same time, one of you might be the mistress in the future." "Ah, forget it," Yu Minmin said. "This is a matter for the management. If we really had the choice, we might have discussed it among ourselves. Just like our studio, we just have to work together. There's no need to compete." Hearing this, Gu Jingming lowered his head and looked at Yu Minmin for a long time. After a while, he said, "It's best if you think that way, because you can't be the mistress." "Ah? The future head of the family will be Jingze. This is almost decided by the family. I'm different from him." Yu Minmin thought, yeah, if he's going to be the president, then he can't be the head of the family. But what did he mean just now? Was he testing her? Yu Minmin secretly glared at him. She thought, how naughty. She didn't want to be the mistress. Gu Jingming suddenly came over. Yu Minmin quickly said, What are you doing? I seem to have seen you glaring at me just now." Yu Minmin quickly said, No. How could that be? I wasn't glaring at you." Gu Jingming looked at her slightly. His gaze seemed calm, but it was full of pressure. Yu Minmin didn't dare to look at him directly. She quickly looked away, but she could still feel Gu Jingming's oppressive gaze on the back of her head. After a long time, Gu Jingming suddenly pulled her head over. Ugh, she wanted to say this in the car, but she didn't say it out loud, because her mouth had already been completely sealed by him. Chapter 6:25. Yu Minmin wanted to say that there were many people watching. Don't do this. However, Gu Jingming lowered his head and bit her lips. He wrapped his arms around her arm and pressed her down on the back seat of the car. No! Gu! Yu Minmin shouted. There's someone. Gu Jingming raised his hand. There was no need for words. The chauffeur understood very quickly. He pressed a button and a black partition rose from the car, separating the chauffeur from the back seat. The back seat of the car seemed to be an independent space. Gu Jingming leaned over and stared at Yu Minmin's panting face in the dark. Yu Minmin was completely pressed down by him. Her limbs were pressed down by him. The space was narrow to begin with, and she couldn't move at all. No, the glass is not transparent. The people outside can't see anything. His voice was already hoarse. But what? But the more you shout, the more time is wasted. He bit her lips again. This time, it was more intense than before. He licked her body, lifted her leg with one hand, and lifted her skirt. Needless to say, there was a storm of attacks below. In the beginning, Yu Minmin was still resisting. But later, she became uneasy because of his skillful technique. She couldn't resist anymore. She didn't want to start in such a place, but he always had a lot of ways to make her lose her mind. Even if she didn't want to, she would still follow her heart in the end. Finally, the car stopped. Yu Minmin felt that they must have taken a long detour on the road to reach Glass Palace. Otherwise, Gu Jingming wouldn't have had enough time for this journey. It was hard for the chauffeur to be so good at timing. He probably drove towards Glass Palace when there was no more movement behind them. Yu Minmin panted in the dark. She raised her tired eyes and saw that Gu Jingming had turned his shirt inside out. There was a thin layer of sweat on his bare skin. Under the illumination of the street lights outside, he looked even sexier in the dark. He gave off a feeling of coldness. He put on the shirt casually and buttoned it up one by one. Then he lowered his head and tidied her skirt. Seeing that Yu Minmin didn't move, he shook his head, turned sideways, and picked Yu Minmin up. "Don't. I'll walk by myself." The people outside already had their imaginations running wild. If they continued to hug like this, don't move. Gu Jingming didn't like her resistance. He lowered his head and frowned. Then he carried her out of the car. The people outside acted as if nothing had happened. They opened the door and let them in. Although no one was looking at them, Yu Minmin still felt ashamed to see them. This Gu Jingming, is he used to driving all the time? Why doesn't he choose a good place to do it? If this went on, she would be too ashamed to face anyone. Just as Gu Jingming was carrying Yu Minmin into the house, he suddenly opened a door and saw someone standing inside. Insuya. Hearing the noise, she turned her head. The smile that was supposed to greet him disappeared in an instant. When their eyes met, Insuya stood there in a daze. She looked at the two of them and didn't react at all. You guys, Gu Jingming was stunned too. Then he put Yu Minmin down. However, the two of them looked disheveled. Although they had tidied up, she could still tell that something was amiss. What shocked Insuya even more was that Gu Jingming had carried Yu Minmin into the house so openly. Carrying her in, Insuya had always known that Gu Jingming was powerful. But it was only now that she felt that Gu Jingming was really powerful. He was so powerful that when he carried a woman like that, it felt as if his hands could carry the whole world. But now he was holding another woman in his arms. Insuya looked at Yu Minmin with jealousy. Gu Jingming said, "You're here." Insuya said, "Yes. I'm here to deliver the club's information to you. You didn't attend it a few times." She looked at Yu Minmin again. Yu Minmin quickly said, "Oh, you guys talk. I'll go in first." Seeing Yu Minmin run in, Gu Jingming walked over to Insuya and said, "You can ask someone else to deliver the information next time." Insuya could only force a smile on her face and look at Gu Jingming. What an interesting feeling. You two are becoming more and more like a married couple. Gu Jingming's expression changed slightly. "Don't talk nonsense. Aren't we? We're another kind." Gu Jingming said, "It's not what you think." "Really?" Insuya's eyes were filled with hope. If he didn't fall in love with Yu Minmin, she could understand everything else. Insuya had known that their marriage was a political one, but she had thought that she didn't feel anything before. She used to think that she would pity the woman who was married to Gu Jingming. But when she saw her marry Gu Jingming, she realized that she was jealous. Whether it was a political marriage or not, Yu Minmin had become the first lady. But as long as Gu Jingming didn't fall in love with Yu Minmin, Insuya still felt a little better. But she looked at Gu Jingming, who was in front of her, and saw a mark on his chest. Her heart twitched. He and Yu Minmin, were they so close? Could it be that they were outside, making love with each other? Insuya couldn't stand it anymore when she thought of how they were doing all kinds of intimate actions together. She forced a smile and looked at Gu Jingming. "I was just saying, I know that your marriage is just a political one. You won't be so stupid to fall in love with such a woman. Such a woman? What kind of woman was she? Gu Jingming subconsciously thought that Yu Minmin was actually a very smart woman. It was just that he was very unhappy with her resistance and fear towards him. He looked at In Suya and didn't say anything. He felt that he was a little tired, so he said perfunctorily, "All right, it's late. You should go back first. I have some other work to do. I'll ask someone to send you home." In Suya quickly got into the car from Glass Palace and went home. However, on the way there, she thought to herself that she had to think of a way to stop Gu Jingming from being alone with Yu Minmin for too long. At least, she had to put someone in their relationship. Otherwise, if they spent too much time together, their relationship would only deepen. As for Yu Minmin, the first thing she saw when she entered was her phone ringing. She picked it up and saw that it was a WeChat notification. It was a WeChat photo from Feng Xiaoqing. It was the Gu family's house. "I saw the paparazzi taking a photo of your artist, Lin Che." Chapter 626. Yu Minmin was stunned. She took a closer look, and it was true. There were probably too many people at night, and Gu Jing's men didn't notice that there were paparazzi following them. It was getting harder and harder to keep Lin Che's identity a secret. After all, there were too many people who wanted to poach her. Yu Minmin said, "It's okay. It'll be the same tomorrow." Feng Xiaoqing said, "Minmin, did you go to the Gu family today?" "Yeah," Yu Minmin said. "Oh, is there an event at the Gu family?" Yeah. You're a big shot in the Gu family now." Yu Minmin was speechless. "I'm a big shot just because I go in and out of the Gu family? Your definition of a big shot is too narrow." Feng Xiaoqing smiled. "Aren't you coming to my company to talk about the advertisement tomorrow?" "See you tomorrow." "Okay." Yu Minmin looked at the photo repeatedly. Luckily, the paparazzi didn't get a picture of Gu Jing's face. They only got a picture of Lin Che's side profile. She would be able to fool them no matter what. She searched the news again and saw that Lin Che was indeed attending a banquet at the Gu family's house. The news said that old Master Gu Xinda's birthday banquet would only invite his own family members. They didn't expect Lin Che to attend. They said that Lin Che attracted the attention of many rich second-generation heirs. They didn't expect him to be associated with a rich family again, and a super rich one at that. Was Lin Che going to live in a rich family? The fans started guessing when they saw the news. Some said that it was common for female celebrities to marry into rich families. They thought that Lin Che was special, but they didn't expect him to be so snobbish. Some said that another female celebrity was going to become a breeding machine for rich families. There were also people who objected. They said, "Are you happy that I'm not looking for a rich family member, but an ordinary person?" You should say, "How can an ordinary person be worthy of your Lin Che?" Some people also said, "If it's the Gu family, isn't it Gu Jingyu's family? Maybe Gu Jingyu invited Lin Che to attend the family banquet." Lin Che and Gu Jingyu are really close. Don't make wild guesses, okay? This only proves that Lin Che and Gu Jingyu are very close. Someone else added, "You guys definitely don't know who Lin Che's partner is. It's Yu Minmin, the Empress of the nation." What's wrong with the Empress of the nation bringing her friend to the Gu family's banquet? You guys really know how to make up stories. However, there were still some people who were envious. They said that it was good to be a celebrity. The people who were related to them were all top rich and powerful families. Some people also said that Lin Che was different from other celebrities. Looking at Lin Che's connections, which one of them wasn't shocking? Although celebrities were always connected to the rich and powerful, Lin Che was the only celebrity who had connections with the Gu family. After reading these messages, Yu Minmin wondered if she should respond to them. But after thinking about it, he decided to let them continue guessing. Anyway, in a few days, these fans would find an explanation for themselves. There was no need for them to think too much about it. The explanation that the fans thought of might be the most reasonable one. The next day, Yu Minmin told Lin Che the news. Lin Che was confused and complained when he saw the news. These paparazzi are really too much. How can they secretly take pictures of such a private gathering? Yu Minmin said, "Anyway, you should be more careful. There are probably paparazzi watching you now. I've already asked people to get rid of some of them and warned some paparazzi studios. But you're too famous now. There will only be more and more people watching you. It's hard to guard against them. Lin Che nodded and said, I'll try my best to be careful. Yu Minmin said, luckily, Gu Jing's people are watching over them. They'll definitely be better than others. Oh yeah, are we going to the advertising agency today? Yes, we'll leave after signing the contract. There are still other itineraries. Some publicity for the witchcraft notes will be released soon. You still have a lot of work to do. The two of them went to the advertising agency together. After entering the door, they went straight inside. Lin Che and Yu Minmin chatted along the way. Before they reached the innermost part, they saw Feng Xiaoqing waiting for Yu Minmin. Minmin, he said with a smile. Lin Che looked at Yu Minmin in surprise. Because Feng Xiaoqing called her so intimately, Lin Che found it a little strange. Yu Minmin quickly introduced him to Lin Che. Oh, this is my classmate. He's also the young master of this advertising agency. His name is Feng Xiaoqing. Everyone calls him Young Master Feng. Lin Che nodded and stretched out her hand. Hello. Feng Xiaoqing looked at Lin Che and was stunned. He thought that she looked better than on TV. Some celebrities didn't have much of an aura in real life, but she was different. She had a faint aura in real life. However, she was still a celebrity. Feng Xiaoqing wasn't interested in her. He didn't know that Lin Che was not only a celebrity, but also the young mistress of the Gu family. He only focused on Yu Minmin and said with a smile, the contract is signed here. Let's have a seat over there after signing the contract. If you're not busy, let's have a cup of coffee. Our company's coffee is pretty good. Yu Minmin said politely, okay, you don't have to be so polite with me. After signing the contract, Feng Xiaoqing was still waiting for her. Yu Minmin could only say to Lin Che, wait for me. I'll go have a seat. Lin Che nodded and squeezed Yu Minmin. He's not interested in you, is he? Yu Minmin said, go to hell. How is that possible? Lin Che said, where's young Master Feng? He's a little impressive. Yu Minmin said, he's also a little, but he's not even as good as your young Master Gu. Go on. All right, that was natural. This was just an advertising company. Lin Che knew quite a few big families, but she had never seen this one before. It seemed like it wasn't some big family in Country C. After Lin Che left, Feng Xiaoqing brought Yu Minmin inside. After Yu Minmin entered, she was stunned to see that there were quite a few strangers sitting in the room. Feng Xiaoqing smiled and said, oh, I forgot to mention that some people from the company's board of directors are here today. Is that okay? What else could Yu Minmin say? She could only smile at these strangers and say, it's fine. Feng Xiaoqing brought her in and introduced her proudly as they walked. Madam President, I'm sure everyone knows you, but I don't think many of you have seen your real face. Coincidentally, you're here today. The people in the room immediately stood up to greet her. Yu Minmin was naturally uncomfortable. She didn't know what Feng Xiaoqing was doing. Feng Xiaoqing looked at everyone's respectful attitude towards Yu Minmin. He smiled and pulled Yu Minmin to the main seat inside. The people from the board of directors looked at Feng Xiaoqing with a face full of praise. Their attitude had changed slightly. I didn't expect young Master Feng to be friends with Madam President. Feng Xiaoqing puffed out his chest. Yeah, we're old classmates. Yu Minmin smiled. After Feng Xiaoqing finished speaking, he whispered into Yu Minmin's ear, forgive me. They're from the board of directors. I can't chase them away. Just take it that they're helping me. Chapter 627. Yu Minmin could only smile and tell him that it was okay. But she was already a little unhappy. Feng Xiaoqing's actions made her feel as if she was being used. The board members looked at Yu Minmin and kept smiling and complimenting her. Madam President, you look much better in person than on TV. I saw your wedding. You've been too low-key after that. It's our honor to have you gracing our company with your presence. Young Master Feng, I didn't expect you to be classmates with Madam President. This is really, after listening for a while, Yu Minmin finally couldn't take it anymore and said to everyone, actually, I'm just here to handle some work. All right, there are still people waiting for me outside. Everyone, take your time. I'll be leaving first. Everyone immediately stood up and saw her off. Yu Minmin spoke for a long time before telling them not to follow her. Everyone said, all right, let young Master Feng see Madam out. Feng Xiaoqing followed Yu Minmin. He looked at Yu Minmin and said, Minmin. Yu Minmin turned back to look at him. Feng Xiaoqing said, I'm sorry. You must be angry. Yu Minmin ran her hand through her hair. No, it's just, what's going on? Feng Xiaoqing looked at Yu Minmin and said, I'm sorry. The company isn't a competition for shares. I'm not as competitive as my uncle, because I'm too young. So, when you came this time, I suddenly remembered that the board members were also here, so I wanted to bring them to see you and let them know that I'm not completely useless. Young. Minmin, I still have you as my old classmate. I believe you'll support me. Yu Minmin sighed and looked at him. Actually, it's useless. I'm just Gu Jingming's wife. I won't be of any help to you. Feng Xiaoqing said, I know. I just want them to see you. They'll have some reservations. You don't know what Madam President is capable of. It's enough for them to see you. Why would I really let you do anything? This is just my personal matter. I won't really involve you. Yu Minmin looked at him and said, forget it. Since you've told me, how can I not help you? But I hope that you'll ask me in advance in the future. Yes, it was all too sudden this time. I didn't expect the board of directors to come today, really. Feng Xiaoqing stared at Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin had no choice but to say, it's okay. I'll leave first. Lin Che is still waiting for me. Seeing that Yu Minmin had left, Feng Xiaoqing harumphed. Behind him, his secretary was walking over seductively. Young Master Feng, she's so gullible. Feng Xiaoqing chuckled. I've already told you, she's been secretly in love with me. This kind of relationship won't just disappear like that. Young Master Feng is really amazing. Even the president's wife secretly likes you. Just you wait. She will help me sooner or later. As long as I ask, she won't refuse. That's great. Then wouldn't it be easy for young Master Feng to soar in the future? We won't have to worry about getting him to help us recruit a few Glass Palace businesses. Do we have to take it slow? Feng Xiaoqing put his arm around the secretary's slender waist, and the two of them walked inside. After Yu Minmin came out, Lin Che saw that she didn't look too good. He walked over and asked, what's wrong? Yu Minmin shook her head and said, it's nothing. I just feel that Feng Xiaoqing is a little different from before. Ah? Yu Minmin sighed, feeling a little regretful. Although people change, it doesn't feel good to see someone I used to know become more and more unfamiliar. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Haven't I changed a lot too? Why should I care about other people's changes? But sigh, we're old classmates anyway. If he says he wants to help, I'll definitely help him if I can. It's just that I hate him for using me without saying a word. Lin Che hugged her and said, he used you? Yu Minmin told him about what had happened earlier. Lin Che said, after all, you're the president's wife now. There are many people who want to bribe you. You'll have to slowly get used to it in the future. Yu Minmin shrugged. Fortunately, I don't usually appear in public. Being the president's wife is dispensable. Otherwise, who knows how troublesome it would be. The two of them returned to the company. When the company staff saw the two of them, they quickly sent over first-hand information. It was the gossip that Lin Che had just come out of. It was the speculation that occupied the headlines, and there were people constantly refreshing the news below. Yu Minmin said speechlessly, could it be that someone is purposely spreading this? How could such a piece of news make the headlines? Lin Che said, but what's the use of spreading this? It's useless for now, but who knows what news will come out later. Okay, all right, after we sign the cosmetics endorsement contract with Eric's company, a Hollywood movie is looking for you. Take a look, they want to discuss it. Hollywood? It can't be. Yu Minmin said, it's probably because Eric hired you. This is the first time he hired an Asian face. In the past, these cosmetics were all endorsed by European models. This is the first time he hired an Asian, so it attracted Hollywood's attention. So, what should I do now? If it's okay, we'll contact you for the audition. Lin Shaye looked at the name of the movie and realized that it was a remake of a recently popular novel. It was a movie about vampires. It was a relatively popular genre abroad. Moreover, this novel was very popular and had quite a bit of influence in the country. Yu Minmin said they probably also considered that the domestic box office is more important now. With a star from country C joining, the box office will be better. They feel that you have some influence in the country now. That's right. It depends on whether your acting skills can keep up. Okay. Lin Shaye looked at the genre. She had never acted in this kind of role before. It was a rather tragic image. Because before she was turned into a vampire, she was still a virgin, so she did not dare to touch any man. After that, she tragically saw all men as her enemies. Later, after the male lead fell in love with her, she did not dare to reveal her true feelings, so she fell in love with the male lead who became a vampire hunter. This kind of dark movie was Hollywood's favorite. It directly attacked the shortcomings of human nature, and the character was not easy to control. Lin Shaye said, "Looks like I really have to think about this carefully." "Yeah, take a look first. If it's okay, you can try the audition first." "Okay. I'm just afraid that I'll be scolded if I don't act well." "Yeah, and this is your first Hollywood movie. If you don't act well, even if you don't do well in the audition, it will affect your future roles." That you're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.